people do it right there. That's it. I don't actually know enough to address this or fix it, which is fine. But I know enough where you can't rip me off. And I feel like that statement is so that you are going to get your, shit together, because you're now dealing with somebody who has enough knowledge to call you on it if you don't. Whether they do or not, it's not even the point, right? It's like, my cousin's a dentist. I just want to let you know before you start scratching around in my mouth here that my cousin's a dentist. So he's actually in the parking lot. He's not going to come in, but he comes with me to all my dentist appointments.
What's up, trade crew? Welcome back to another episode of HVAC R&D with Rhydon and Dennis. We are powered by Keystone Sales and Associates, your premier PHVAC manufacturer's rep in the Mid-Atlantic. We've got a customer on the show tonight of Keystone Sales. It's the last show of the year. I've been pumped about this. I know the guy that's coming on is pumped. We all got our beers ready, got walkout songs ready. So without further ado, let's get it going.
Yeah, come on. Is that sultry enough for my new music, Dennis? Oh, yeah. So what's up, trade crew? As always, we are also brought to you by our other platinum sponsor, One Thing Marketing. Hopefully you listened to Brittany's show last week. If you didn't, you greatly missed out on a ton of free 99 stuff. I will say that. Great show. She's always good to have on here. She can hem-haw it up with the best of us with that pipe fitter's mouth she's got, thanks to her dad. So she'll definitely always keep it real. Explicit episode. Yep. Everyone should be happy about that. But as always, how much are you loving your HVAC R&D these days? Whatever streaming platform you're listening on, Pandora, Spotify, iHeart, Apple Music, please make sure to follow us, like us, rate us, leave us a review, share us with your trade crew. Thank you so much for everyone that listens. If you're interested in working with us, in being a sponsor, sponsoring a one-off show, or working with us in any other capacity, including workforce development like we talked about last week, please make sure to reach out to us at hvacrnd@gmail.com. Social stats continue to move up. Instagram and Trade Hounds are crushing it. TikTok keeps growing. I don't even know what from, but it's funny every time I get on there. I'm like, oh, 20 more followers. I'll take it. But you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at hvac.rnd. And then you can find us on Trade Hounds, LinkedIn, and Facebook as the HVAC R&D Podcast. Go check out hvacrnd.com, join our mailing list, get in there, check out the vendor hub as well as the merch shop. Go check out the new beer pong sets, the bottle openers, all the cool swag. We got more stuff in the works for after AHR, so just keep checking, keep listening, keep watching. Before I used to say, check the link trees in the bios. Again, that is gone. All the info you can get at hvacrnd.com or shoot us a DM. I know I've got several people that have sent me some messages this last week, but Dennis and I have been absolutely slam busy. I will get back to everybody, I promise. And if you need anything else, you can always shoot us an email at hvacrnd@gmail.com. So, shameless self-plug over.
Nice
I'm
job,
getting
bud.
better. I think that was, a minute and a half? That's what I'm talking about. I don't want to have the 7-minute self-promo that irritates everybody.
Oh, they've done skipped it anyway. They've done
Probably.
skipped it. Okay.
Well, the thing is, it was too short this time, so now they're like, oh shit, I got to back up.
Yep.
So we're extremely excited, as Dennis said, for our guest tonight. It's going to be a fun one for me because there's some connections that I think we'll get to talk about that people don't know, and I know he doesn't know about. Some history he doesn't know about me or where he or the business he now owns. So it's going to be a fun show. So we have to extend a big welcome to a fellow Western North Carolinian mountain man like myself, an owner-operator of Ward Plumbing and Heating, Mr. Brad Waldrop. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks, fellas. Good to be here.
What's up, man?
And it's Ward Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
What?
Oh,
Just we rebranded.
Heating and air.
Yeah, we went ahead and decided to do air conditioning in 2019. It's been pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to get into the weather up there in Sylva. I didn't realize it was a rainforest.
Yeah.
I don't think Sylva technically is, but definitely parts of our service area. When you get up on what we call the plateau, like Cashers and Highlands,
Cashers.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Do not say cashiers because
No.
There's a joke here locally among contractors and other businesses that's how you wind up with an upcharge, saying cashiers because you've shown your hand and people know you ain't from around here.
Yep.
So. When I first traveled up there, a buddy of mine said we're going up to High Cash is the other name for it.
Oh,
It's a big I guess where's the money come? Is it coming from Atlanta? I didn't realize how close you were to.
Dude, there's
Atlanta,
all
right?
kinds of money up there. I mean, I know we talked about it on the show that one time. Like, that one guy his brother was the Earl of Kent. So the guy had like all of this overseas money. He was Scottish royalty. Dad did all the maintenance on his hydronic solar system.
Wow.
we got all hells of earls around here, but none of them are a title.
Yeah,
A vast majority of them is just their name.
that's right.
Yeah, you got a lot of people there that have vacation and summer homes, and yes, Atlanta. A lot of them are from Atlanta. Probably, I mean, I've never counted them, but even more from Florida. Here we call them halfbacks. I don't know if
That's
you ever heard that term, but that's someone
New York
who's
to Florida and back here.
yeah, and made it halfway back. Yeah, exactly. So they've escaped the cold and gone to Florida for the warm, and then figured out it's damn warm, especially in the summertime. So they come back to the mountains to cool off for the summer.
Until they hit 107 degree day in downtown Bryson City on the water, and they go, "Whew,
Yeah,
this
I
happens
think,
here."
and I don't think a lot of people realize the humidity here, which goes back to what you were bringing up, Dennis. Everybody knows it's humid in Florida, but it's also humid here in the summertime. When it's 85 degrees here down in the valleys, you feel it because of the humidity. It's still pretty warm, and that's
It's like
why
a
we
little
decided to do
mini
air
Columbia, right?
Yeah, well, because it's
nothing's like a Columbia.
a lot of the mountains are considered temperate rainforest still.
Yes. Yeah, that's where we started this conversation, was up there in that area. Those are, by definition, temperate rainforests. But, we're not far from that. So the summertime can be usually is very muggy for a good part of it.
So speaking of sweating, I'm looking at this beer here. Brad's got to go first. He is the guest.
I'm excited to see which local one you picked.
I'm about to crack open, with your permission, a Spaceman Pale Ale from Innovation Brewing here in Sylva.
Nice. Innovation's a cool spot.
Yeah, it's a fine beer. So
Right
let's
there
see
on
if
the
we
corner.
There she goes.
There you go.
And I do know what to expect. So you're not going to hear like a holy shit or anything because I've had more than one of these before now.
Yeah, we caught some. Is that where you took me when we went got some lunch? Where did we go?
No, that's another great local brewery called Balsam Falls Brewing.
That's right. They had some good.
I've not been to that one.
It's right on Main Street in Sylva.
Has that got an IBU scale number on it?
Has it got a what, buddy?
An IBU scale? We've only found one beer that prints that.
This is a 46.
Ooh. That's up there, isn't it?
Missing a point? I don't even know how IBUs work. I don't see a decimal there. Have you guys reached the point in your life where you have to hold shit like 2 feet from your face?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my dad, and it's God, I can't believe you said that. So I was working from home the other week, and I'm looking down at my phone at a install manual. You know how that is, and it's small. And I leaned down to look at it, where I would normally lean down, and it was kind of blurry. And I'm 41. I mean, my eyes are good, I thought. And when I backed up like a half inch, it all came into focus. Like, this is the first time it's ever happened. I went, shit. Like, here we are. Now we're talking, I mean, my dad used to always say it wasn't his eyes that were bad. It was that his arms were too short.
Yeah, I like it.
And my dad being 5'5", like it, that always hit pretty good.
Oh, gotcha.
But all right.
My dad. I'll share one from my dad with you. My dad, when I got to be about high school age, I remember this conversation pretty vividly because he said, "Brad, I think you're gonna be somebody who achieves what I've kind of always viewed as the ideal physical dimensions for a man. You're going to be about 6 feet tall, which I wasn't yet, and you'll probably weigh about 180 pounds." And he said, "That's what I always wanted to be, was 6 feet, 180." He said, "I never made it past 5'6", so what I did was I overachieved on the 180 to make up for the 5.
That's me right there.
The 6 inches that I didn't get in height.
There you go.
I added on to the weight."
That's
my
great.
Dadisms.
Yeah. My dad, he's built like a barrel. He says, just like a 55-gallon drum.
But
5'5", 195 or whatever it is.
Nice.
All right, Rhydon, what you got? We've been beating Rhydon up because he's drank Modelo enough on this show, and they're still not paying us. So we got to get something else going.
So I am drinking Baller Beer, a Kannapolis lager.
Kannapolis, okay.
So it is from Cabarrus. Naturally, I didn't realize I grabbed 2 Cabarrus beers back to back, but hey, the sticker's on your laptop, so maybe we need to get them to pay me.
Yep. I got
so the high-flying, death-defying, gravity-denying, fearless feats of the crash helmet-wearing, mustache-bearing, nostrils-flaring Cannonballers Baseball Club mascot are the very embodiment of the indomitable spirit of those who call the city of Kannapolis, Cabarrus and Rowan counties, and the rest of the Piedmont region home. Baller Beer, a crisp, smooth lager brewed with local malt and toasted rice, was created as a celebration of this spirit and as a toast to the next chapter in the already rich history of this community. So, go ahead, grab a pint, and have a blast.
I mean, that had to have taken up the whole can.
Damn, is that a 20? Is that a 22 ounce? Or
it's a point. It's a point. 4.6. No IBU scale listed.
No.
So.
Lager. I'm a lager.
I'm a lager. Just up from Coos Bay, Oregon, and topping trees. Thank you, Ray Stephen.
Yep.
So the Kannapolis Cannonballers are the local single-A baseball team, but for the longest time, they were the Kannapolis Intimidators, named after Dale Earnhardt. And there's still some heartburn over the fact that that's not what they are anymore.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because the 3 for Dale is pretty important in this part of the world.
What's the saying?
Raise hell, praise Dale.
There
That's
it is. Raise Dale.
Oh, you still see those bumper stickers everywhere here.
It's amazing how much that guy still affects people. It's been, yeah. All right. So I've got an Oscar Blues brewery here. It's called Scotch. Well, the flavor is Scotch Ale.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
The name of the beer is Old Chub. I just couldn't pass that up. Let's see. So this is an 8% beer. This is really high for me, typically. I'm scared to even know what this is going to taste like.
They're good.
Oh, you've had them?
Yeah, but I shouldn't have said that. I should have let you have it first.
Okay. Oh, it's definitely, and to make it even better, they haven't hit the fridge yet. I'm pouring this thing into a frosty mug because, it's dark. It's really dark. It looks like Pepsi as I'm pouring it in here.
The new Chub's a lot lighter. You got the old Chub there. That's some age on it.
Old Chub.
Sounds like a bad Happy Gilmore joke.
I know. I just couldn't pass it up. Actually, that's pretty good. That's not it doesn't hit as hard as I thought it would. Where do you feel yourself gravitating, Brad? You like the darker beers?
No, I drink IPAs and pale ales most of the time if I'm having beer, which is what if I drink, I usually drink beer, and I'll usually drink. Here lately, probably the last 6 months, I've gotten more into the session type of IPAs because I can drink them the way I used to drink beer. There are those of us that they're old enough, and you might be in that group, Dennis, I don't know, to have had to adjust to the changes in the beer industry. And if you like to smoke, which is not legal yet in North Carolina, but there's been some adjustments people have had to do there as well. Beer and I don't know if am I allowed to talk about just mention pot on the show?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Those things have changed a lot since I was
you think?
young. You can't, I hardly ever smoke, but you can't just take you can't smoke a joint of the shit that comes out now. And beer's basically the same way because you used to drink a 6-pack pretty casually. Yeah. It used to be, I could drink a 6-pack of beer in an evening, and not even really be feeling it much,
Well, you're relaxed.
Yeah.
You eat and then you go to sleep. Like,
if you don't pay attention to the labels on these things and you decide to have a 6-pack these days, you get in a real mess.
Well, the first sign is when you buy them in a 4-pack. That's the first sign.
Yeah.
It's like,
if you
go ahead and drink you 4 of these real quick.
Yeah, exactly.
This Old Chub here, 8%, like, if I get through half of this beer, and I've had them on this show, my face turns red. Like, I feel it. That is not a Mick Ultra. Like, that is not a golf beer. Not. That's not a pool beer. That's not a, I can't even drink these all day on a Sunday watching football. Like, I won't make it to the last game, So
exactly. That's why I've kind of reverted back. I think it's like a middle ground, a session, a good session IPA. Yeah, high 4s, low 5s, up to 5.5. I can still, have a few without, like you just said, I drink 2 8%ers, and I can tell something's happening, And
well, so there's
my wife can too.
Right. Yeah, right. Are you the chatty Cathy when you start drinking?
I start getting this smile, which I'm like, oh, that's good. That sounds great.
I can hear that smile.
Yeah.
I can about hear it. We're almost there.
Yeah. You're supposed
Stop
to
now.
That as my wife, me just smiling for no reason. But she says she can see it coming occasionally.
Damn Cheshire cat over there.
So, to add to that, with talking about marijuana, right? Like there's not a 30-minute high anymore. There's no such thing as that. It's like 4 or 5 hours. But even on the beer side, like the craft part of it, right? Like,
Yep.
hazy little thing, 5.5%. I mean, that's a different kind of 5.5%.
Mm-hmm.
You drink 4 or 5 hazy IPAs from Sierra Nevada, and you're going to be in a different position.
Yep.
than a Budweiser or anything that was, like, I guess you could say mass produced. Like, I don't know, the alcohol content level, I don't know, it's like
it feels different.
It's different. It's definitely different.
Doesn't seem like it's the only barometer anymore.
No.
Like, yeah, 5. I mean, definitely, there's a difference between 5.5 and 8, no matter what it is. But
That's
I agree
right.
with you. Like, I can drink a 5.5 that's an IPA, which is what I typically drink, and have a totally different thing going on than if I were to drink 5 Budweisers.
Right.
Well, and I think the other thing that's interesting is all these smaller breweries and smaller grow facilities and everything else have created other parts of our industry that we now chase. So the company I work for inside out of the Charlotte office, we sell packaged grow room stuff all over the country. So I know the last time I was in Charleston, they had a bunch of stuff in the warehouse that was getting ready to go to a grow facility. And then I think some of the guys up in our Asheville sales office have sold a few as well. And then
when you say package, you mean like somewhat bundled? Like you've already
so like they, depending on where, some places can actually buy, like, this is what our grow room's going to be. So there's already engineered plans for all the mechanical. And a lot of times where on the big commercial industrial side, Insight Partners is a manufacturer's rep. So we represent Aon, Samsung, Marley, Armstrong, and a lot of these bigger commercial groups. And they'll have systems that are built and designed for specific different things that are already out there. Or, we'll work with engineers to develop a system for a grow facility for someone.
But in some cases, the format's already pretty much there.
In some cases, there's kind of a format there. Yep.
Yeah, that's smart. I mean, if you already know the building design, you don't have to redesign the HVAC and ventilation and everything.
And the climate is different. And there's a lot of cannabis mechanical related accounts you can see on LinkedIn now too, because there's so much more that goes into actually maintaining the right environment than people ever gave it credit for.
Yeah, humidity. I had to go put design a mini split system to go in this guy's. He built a like a 10 by 10 shed, and he was going to be raising like geckos, and they had to have the perfect like humidity and temp and lighting. And I'm like, man, I'm a little nervous in taking this job on right here. Like, haven't really came across that. But yeah, same thing. Climate, humidity, it's a huge part of that.
I would assume geckos have to have a pretty consistent or stay in a specific humidity range, right? Because they're from...
Right.
Yeah. Any reptilian or amphibian, I would think, has to be kept a certain way when they're being incubated and grown and everything.
Yeah, it was interesting. In Atlanta, man, some of the jobs, and I keep just remembering half of them that I came across in Atlanta for HVAC was insane. I think I've said it on the show. Speaking of grow rooms, I remember walking up to this guy's house.
Oh yeah, all the mini splits.
Yeah, it was a 3,500 square foot basement. The whole basement was a grow room.
Yeah, we're not doing basements with mini splits anymore.
Yeah, it was like 15 mini splits on the back of this guy's house. I'm like,
I like it cold.
That's not legal here.
This power bill.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, that's not legal there.
No.
I'm like, I don't know if I want to mess with this here. Is this a setup? Am I on punked, or what are we doing here?
Now, Brad, aren't they? I know with legalization on the reservation, aren't they turning like the old bingo hall into a massive grow room?
I think that's actually the dispensary.
Is it going to be pure dispensary and then they grow somewhere else? I swear I thought someone said they were growing and dispensing out of the same building.
They may be growing there.
I haven't been up there since.
But they're definitely growing somewhere besides there, because there's an interesting story that I've heard that to transport the product from where they're growing it. One, I've been told that the entire grow facility is powered on gas, because a friend of mine runs a local propane company, and they weren't able to get utilities there, or they may not be planning to. That was a detail I didn't catch, but it's currently, or at least a few months ago, it's all powered by gas. And secondly, to transport the product from the grow facility to the dispensary, they can't do it all on the reservation. So they have to go, there's a short stretch of public, non-reservation road that they have to go. And the Swain County Sheriff told them that he would arrest them. So the last I heard, they were having to transport the product by helicopter.
I was so going to say, please tell me they're helicoptering it like down to. Yes.
No, that's what I've been told.
Did they get the guy that was off the? Did they hire the guy that was off the road right there by the casino? They get him to do it.
I think it's the guy. What was the guy's name on the A team that flew the Murdoch? Was it Murdoch that flew the plane?
Yeah, but I just picture Barney standing there, like, you ain't coming down
Barney
through here.
5. Nope.
Well, I'm not going to make fun of the Swain County Sheriff, but that's definitely the image that you would conjure. More arrests if you come on this road right here. Now I'm standing here.
God, I remember Bob Ogle for years. He and my dad were good friends. They used to be shooting buddies.
All right, I'm gonna get the technical stuff out of the way.
The technical stuff.
Yep, I'm gonna get some technical stuff.
What you been doing?
This is an HVAC show, just so y'all know.
I hadn't noticed in the other episodes.
I know. Yep. Notice me and Rhydon hadn't talked about our fantasy football teams either.
I don't want to talk about it.
Took a shit there.
Don't want to talk about it.
So I went to a and don't let Brad fool you. I've talked to Brad. He sits in classes. He's more technical than he leads on. Brad reads a lot. He's soaking it up. So went to a site visit today. My first one in the Carolinas with a Unico high velocity system with a Bosch system on the outside, on the outdoor. Super bizarre home. So the contractor said this thing runs all day. I'm like, it's a heat pump. Thanks for calling. Hung up. He's like, now this was towards Lake Lure, so not frigid, but 25 there this morning. Homeowner says it runs way too much. His old Goodman did not do that. Like, of course it didn't, right? We'll get into that later when we talk about homeowners. But he's like, we've called tech support, went through this thing over and over and over. It just won't shut off. 50 degrees outside, it's still just running. Set on 67, just runs. I'm like, that ain't right. So I make a site visit over there today because you can't fix some of this over the phone, right? It's impossible. So I go over there, and it's 39 degrees when I get there. This house is all poured walls, and it's probably 200 foot long and 20 foot wide. Like, jeez. It looks like the biggest mobile home I've seen in my life is what I pictured. It's this guy came out of Charleston and built this house. It's got terracotta roof. I mean, this thing has 7 units on the back of it, and they're all old, rude caskets, except for the old Bosch over there shining like a little diamond in the rough over there.
My dad didn't do that one, did he?
It's a hodgepodge, man. Like, it's a super long house. He's like, all right, we're walking through this section. This is a heat pump system. I'm like, all right, feels pretty good right here. We get to the middle of the house. It's vaulted. This is a dual fuel system with a gas burner. Okay. Get to the next system. This is a heat pump system. We keep going, and the Bosch is all the way at the end. 1,000 square foot. It's all it's supplying. And I go into this master bedroom, and it's set on 67, and it's satisfied at 67, but it ain't satisfied. It's just running. I can hear it. I hear the air blowing out. Okay. Mm-hmm. The return is in the middle of the bedroom ceiling, right in the center. It's not over by the wall. It's not near the thermostat at all. And the thermostat is like 20 feet away, like it's going down the hall. And there's no other return, but there's just, it's high velocity. Have you seen high velocity, Brad, with the little 2-inch?
Yeah. I mean, I'm familiar with them. We see them every now and then.
I was going to say, I think there's some up around there, that area, but so the air blowing out, it's a very even system, but this one, so I'm there for an hour and a half. The stat never cuts off. Just sits there, 67, satisfied at 67, but it ain't cutting off. So it ain't clicking that threshold on the stat. And I hook everything up. The system is literally putting out 130 degree supply temp. It's crushing it. It's a Bosch 18 SEER. By now it's 49 degrees outside. The system should have cut off by now, at least one time. 12-inch concrete, solid poured walls. Now, when you want to talk about homeowners, we'll get into them later about how they're a little more knowledgeable. Both of these homeowners work for ACA.
Oh, wow.
Oh, geez.
So I was like, oh, yay. That's fantastic. She's like, yeah, I just let you know who we work for, and we design this and do this. And I'm like, all right, well, you should have figured this out. Right? So I brought her into the room, and I was like, can I ask you what the block load is here? It's literally it's literally a block house.
Yep.
I mean, there's nothing inside. It's painted concrete. All the walls are white, painted white concrete. So I took my probe, went over there where the bed is, put it in the middle of the bed, because the homeowners are like, it just won't cut off. It's 73 degrees over there, 67 where the stat is. So as you walk from the bed towards the stat, you get about halfway through the room. Now you're under the return where all the heat's going. Keep walking, and now you come to the thermostat. So it's just in that little envelope there. And I was like, you can't put this right here. This can't go right here. So I put my probe over on the wall. I was like, we need to get a wireless stat, stick it over here. And it read 72 degrees, which we would have clicked, right? It would have turned off.
Yep.
And she's like, oh my God. You know how many people have came out here? You know they had Bosch Tech Support on the phone, which you can't fix that over the phone really, but it was bizarre, right? It was bizarre. She said, if we don't get this fixed, we're moving. Like, this is ridiculous. She's not cussing any products. She's just like, this thing it doesn't ever shut off. I'm like, well, it's not. The stat's over here just hanging out in this little area, and there's nothing moving over here.
Well, and was it picking up, temperature more from the other rooms as opposed to the room it was in anyway, because it being so far away?
It was in between. The next nearest return was 50 feet.
Jeez.
Which is on another system. Like I said, it's just a long, really long house. And of course, Brad knows this is what we come across day in, day out.
That's one that needed addressed because of the system just running incessantly, but there's so many, you get those calls that are in that same vicinity of it's not being the temperature I want it to be. And sometimes the most valuable thing you can ask somebody is, are you comfortable? To remind them why you have the thing in the first place. Because people can get so caught up on what it's saying as opposed to what its function is, that you can get lost in all that. Like we have our operations and install manager, Jerry, who you've met, Dennis. He's really good at those types of conversations because, one, he's very patient, but he'll tell people, for example, I'm sure you guys have had this call where they're like, it says it's 70 degrees in here, but I still feel cold.
Yep.
Therefore, it's not working properly.
Yep.
And Jerry will just come at him with you can turn it up.
Turn it up.
Yeah. It's like they hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, because their last system, right, or their last house, they set it at this. Well,
it's supposed to be comfortable. So if it's
Right.
70 and I'm not comfortable, then something's wrong.
I can hear him saying that. Yeah, he
Yeah.
won't get technical with you. He'll just get like common sense on you real quick.
You can turn it up. And I've been told, I don't know if you guys know this, but I've been told that like the rest of the world, essentially outside the United States, thermostats don't even have temperatures on them most of the time.
I wish they didn't.
You just turn it up and turn it down. And therefore, if you're not warm enough, you press the up arrow. And
happier.
Lo and behold.
Good here, like
smiley face ratings.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. And I think that does plague us sometimes, like this obsession with, well, it says it's 70. I don't feel like it's 70.
Well,
So
that's the next thing right there. The feel. That's where so many
summertime,
people
that's
don't
a big
see.
one.
Yeah, but they don't understand how much the humidity in the home affects what they want that temperature to be, or what they think that temperature should be.
Oh, that's everything in summer.
Because it's like, well, we keep it 70 degrees, but now it just feels like we're freezing. It's like, yeah, because it's dehumidified. Make it 72.
Yeah, put it on 72. I bet it'll be warmer.
Yeah, you're 1997, whatever you had. You didn't know what humidity was, and you didn't care. You just kept turning it down till you were comfortable, and that was 68. Now, the salesman came in, and he talked up like crazy about this humidity. Now you actually know what it is. And now you're like, this ain't right. You're like, well, yeah, you need to go to 74 because now we pull more humidity out with this product and you're comfortable, But that guy today, he's like, I asked him that immediately. And the contractor standing there was like, it's different when I come in. They got skin in the game. They're scared to say anything from reviews and money. And I just asked like the really hard, uncomfortable questions because I got to get to the bottom of this today. You know what I mean? And I'm like, are you comfortable? Like, heat pumps are going to run a lot. I kind of give it back to him just a little bit. I know something ain't right, but I want to know what the homeowner's thinking. And he's like, I mean, yeah, it feels good in here. I'm like, yeah, it's satisfied. He's like, I see that it's satisfied, but it ain't cutting off. And I'm like, I'm with you, but are you comfortable? You want it warmer? Or you want it colder? He's like, I want it to shut off. Like at least once.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I could see that being troublesome.
I had to be there to witness that, though. You know what I mean? If I would have been on the phone, I would have been like, look, man, heat pumps run a lot. They run triple of what you might have had, especially a variable speed. It's going to run a lot. And I would have hung up and he, so I went out. I was like, dang, this thing is
no, I mean, he had a legitimate issue, right?
They know.
Not cutting off.
Yeah, homeowners
you're turning to the contractor and you're like, hey, just on future installations, we might want to put the thermostat inside. It'll work better if we put the thermostat inside the building, or the zone that we're actually conditioning.
I told that homeowner, because he was like 6'5", 6'6", and that room had like 8-foot ceiling in it. And there's these beams on the ceiling, decorative beams. I said, if I lived here, I would get me a Honeywell wireless stat and stick it to this beam right next to this return. Not even lying. You can reach it. Nobody else can see it. He's like, I think that's what I'm going to do. I looked over at the contractor. He's like, yep, I'll get one ordered. We'll put it in. Like, I don't care where you stick it. Like,
yeah, just help me out here, buddy. You're
just not getting the right reading on this. Like, you're not getting the room temp. This ain't the room temp over here. And you know what I thought though? I said, I'm dealing with this house it's concrete. What is the heat loss here? Nobody has ran that. Even the 2 homeowners that work for ACA. I said, let's turn this off for a second. It's 39 degrees. I turned the thermostat off, and it really didn't lose temp in there like I thought it would. I don't know.
I was going to say, how long did you give it? Or like what did it drop in what period of time you measured?
We give it
was it underground as part of this?
No.
It was a basement. It's a walkout basement.
No. It's just flat ground. 2-story, but it's
this was the basement.
2-story poured concrete.
No. It's a poured concrete house, not a basement.
Gotcha. Okay.
All the walls are just concrete. Yeah. Bizarre. And that bedroom had 5 windows in it. So I'm sitting here thinking, you know what? I'm just battling the application here, like the house. And Rhydon, he used to run a lot of loads for contractors, but it probably in 10 minutes, it went down 1 degree, which I thought was impressive.
That's nothing.
That's nothing. I'm like,
no.
He's like, look, when this thing comes on, it's loud. The returns were really loud, but supplies on they were fine. They had a little 2-inch blowing out there, but so anyway. That's
what percentage of calls do you go on when you go to a home, Dennis, where the issue is presumed to be the equipment, because it always is, right? If it's not working, it's got to be the equipment. And this is a unique one because typically it's ductwork, and
right.
most of us know that. In this case, it actually wasn't, so that's a kind of another X factor, just the placement of the thermostat. But what percentage do you go on where it's presumed to be the equipment and it's not?
100. All right, I'm kidding.
Which is
it's up there. No, it's in the 90s. I'm not gonna lie, it's in the 90 percentile. It's and that's okay. I'm telling you, I always go out there. It's not that I want it to be the equipment, but it's just, I don't know. We'll get into this later, right? It's just today's times with the homeowners, they're brutal, man. And these guys, they start breathing down these guys' necks, and I swear they can't think. Like common sense, right? Mm-hmm. Like today, the guy's like, "Look, man, we got to figure something out." Like it just took walking around and just kind of seeing what's going on, right? I didn't start hooking gauges up. I didn't start pulling amp draws. I don't care what the static is, not at first. Let's just see what's going on, like talk to the homeowner. They're going to tell you what's happening, and you better listen. I know they don't know technical, but you got to listen because they'll tell you what it's doing.
Yeah, they live there. I mean, they're experiencing it every day.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm walking in like trying to figure out how his system operates in, an hour. And this guy, he's sleeping there. So,
but not sleeping with the thermostat, because if he had been, the whole thing would have been.
I told him to just get a wireless stat and just set it on the pillow. Like, I don't care where you put the damn thing, but it needs to be over here somewhere.
That would have been a good case for the remote, like the Honeywell remote back in the day. If you didn't have the wireless sensor, just put the remote by the bed.
Well, that wireless stat,
Oh, you can't beat that.
Just lay it on the nightstand. I don't care where you put it. I mean,
We use the Train 824s a lot, Dennis, and you know that because
Yep.
you and I've talked about it before. In my house, I'm not zoned on my main floor. In fact, I might later now that we have a daughter, but I just use those wireless zone sensors, which on the Train 824 you can opt them in basically as the controller.
Yep.
So we're basically running the temperature on our whole main floor off of my 3-year-old daughter's bedroom.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That whatever room, because that's what's driving your comfort area, right? Wherever that stat is so crucial. I know guys say, "Oh yeah, I had to move it. The sun was coming in the foyer and raising it up, or making it run all day." But you're right. You could take I went a little bit deep with him today with that. I'm like, well, you can get a T10 or get this and take that sensor and just stick it in another part of the house. It doesn't matter where it goes. That's what's driving the system. So the
sunlight's the classic example of thermostat maybe being in the wrong spot or causing. But there's other scenarios where just having your control be coming from the ideal place is where you want it to be that temperature, right? I want it to be 70 in this bedroom. Well, put your thermostat in that bedroom and more than likely you'll achieve that unless it's right by a window or, whatever.
All right. So listen at Brad. See, I'm telling you, he's sharper than you think. Don't let him fool you.
I wouldn't know how to do what I just said. I just know that's how you can do it.
That's how you do it.
Brad would be a fantastic homeowner to show up at.
Hey, man,
I thought I had a good pair today with the ACA employees.
I know, right?
God, ACA's going to beat me up on here if somebody's listening. But
yeah, we hadn't tried to go down that route yet.
She did lay that out to me right out of the gate. This just telling you where I work. I'm like, that's cool. You like your job? I mean, what's this conversation for? Like,
well, but that's because that is the classic homeowner justifying that they know more than you would expect them to know, if that makes sense.
Have we? Have you done that, Brad?
It's the semi unhumble brag as well.
I've done it. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Guy comes out to fix my garage door. I'm like, hey, look, man, I've been in construction.
Got a lot of garage doors.
Don't, yeah. Don't F this up. I'm standing here. Like, I know what's happening.
That's why people do it right there. That's it. I don't actually know enough to address this or fix it, which is fine. But I know enough where you can't rip me off. And I feel like that's
right.
That statement is so that you are going to get your, shit together because you're now dealing with somebody who has enough knowledge to call you on it if you don't. Whether they do or not, it's not even the point, right? It's like, my cousin's a dentist. I just want to let you know before you start scratching around in my mouth here that my cousin's a dentist. So
we talk all the time about it.
Yep. He's actually in the parking lot. He's not going to come in, but he comes with me to all my dentist appointments.
Oh God! All right, when are we gonna get into this ward?
The ward history.
Yeah, ward. Yeah, ward might be.
Well, I guess we need to get into Brad first. We haven't even really gotten into Brad.
We gotta pump.
Pretty much all I've done this week is we've got a ton of people on vacation, so I've ran some delivery trucks. I've transferred some stuff from warehouse to warehouse to get things ready. And then this morning I had a huge multifamily rough-in that had to go out. The customer actually brought his own 53-foot trailer just so that we didn't have to run, 3 trucks in one day to the job since it's in Raleigh.
That's a big trailer.
So I loaded up a 24 skid multifamily rough-in job this morning.
50 feet. That's a semi-trailer.
Semi-trailer full.
What is he? Is he pulling it with a semi?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's full
what
semi.
That's a big company.
This company has a secondary company that they have a full truck lineup for. Okay. So they just like, well, We'll just send you a 53 footer. That works. I said,
Brad, y'all got to step your game up, man.
I was like, you just let me know when you're going to be here. I'll have it ready. So that was a monster this morning, but it was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds like a cool customer too.
Yeah, no joke.
Like if that wasn't planned ahead of time and they just ponied up and said, "Here, use our semi and trailer," that's pretty helpful.
Yep. No, those guys have been really good to me. I've known them for years, but I really couldn't ever do the amount of business with them that we wanted to do because of where I was before I am now. This one order was more in one order than I sold them all last year, the place I was before.
And they gave you the truck. Nice.
And helped me out with the truck.
Yeah, we'll give you your order of the year, and here's a semi too.
Well, and see, that's the good thing. It's not an order a year now. This is just one of them.
Did you take them to lunch riding or something?
Oh yeah, those boys get well taken care of.
Some donuts?
No. I'll take them to good lunches.
Good lunches. All right, Brad. Let's get into what, because I don't know if I've actually heard the Brad story. I think Grayson over at Keystone may have, but
Agent 00 Turner, if anyone doesn't know.
OG Turner. So yeah, let's get into how you got into HVAC and Ward.
Yeah, it's so Rhydon, you were asking earlier before we even started the recording, I think. I grew up here in West North Carolina. I went to Fairview Elementary, which is right here in Sylva, and then Smoky Mountain High School, and then when I graduated from Western Carolina University in '98 with a business degree and a major in marketing. And I moved down to Atlanta and took a sales job, and I was in the semiconductor industry for 10 years. Computer chips.
Gotcha.
They go in other things, but most people just loosely call them computer chips. It's interesting because I didn't really have much interest in them then, like from a technical standpoint, and still don't. But I did it for 10 years because it was, I was learning business and I did a lot of sales, and that was what I did for 10 years. And then I got into residential real estate in Atlanta, flipping houses. And Jason Wingate, he and his wife, Nikki, are my business partners. There's three of us that own Ward. And Jason got wind that the Ward family, at the time I'm living in Atlanta and he's living in South Florida. We're both from Sylva and Nikki's from Bryson City. He and Nikki were living in South Florida and I was in Atlanta. And he got wind that the Ward family was going to want to sell the business, and they also owned a pretty large tract of real estate in downtown Sylva that was owned by the business. And the owner and operator, Keith Ward, was going to retire and sell it. And because Jason and I had done some real estate deals together, he asked me to help him analyze the deal, see what the real estate was. And we were pretty much solely focused in this moment on the real estate because that was the value. The business, we had known the business our whole lives, having grown up here in Sylva, but we weren't HVAC or plumbing guys, so we just knew the name and it did HVAC and plumbing, right? So he and Nikki we decided it's a good deal and purchased the real estate and the business. And it's kind of funny looking back because we certainly didn't have a plan for the business and really hadn't discussed it that much, to be honest with you.
So what is this business at that time? What did you purchase?
So there's 13 employees and it's largely new construction. They had, I think, one, maybe two HVAC service technicians, two install crews that were, just worth noting. Both the lead installers were 60 years old.
Nice. Because they've probably been with Keith since
they
started.
Yeah, they had. And no website, didn't exist, no logo, one email address for the whole business, whatever. I think it was keith.ward@whatever.com. It wasn't even it was like frontier.com or something like that.
They're
right?
downtown and they don't have a logo at all.
Yep.
Nothing. There's
Wow.
a train. Well, there's a train sign on the building because it was
It's been there
co-op.
forever.
Co-ops, yeah.
And then just black letters, Ward Plumbing and Heating on a white sign.
Okay.
And the marketing was, we'll put a banner up at the high school football field, and at the holidays we'll put something in the Sylva Herald. And there was one computer in the whole building. Literally microfiche machines. Y'all even know what those are? Dennis, you might.
I was a history major.
one-
I know all about those bad boys.
Well, he
so
read
I was
about it.
I was a history and entrepreneurial business major at Western. So go Cats.
Yeah,
Okay.
he read
I
about
walked
it.
in and saw the microfiche machine. I haven't seen one myself, although I used them doing research in college. This has been
Me too.
The
same library.
Yeah, at Hunter Library. But now I'm seeing one for the first time in right at 20 years. And I'm like, wow, what is this like? Basically you're keeping this because it's an antique, and I get to looking around and there's still some microfiche reels there, and like they've still got the train marketing material.
I was gonna say, was that like their old train books?
Yeah, that's how
awesome.
Some of the data would come to you on
That's awesome.
microfiche.
Oh, you could put that on eBay and recoup some of the money.
Probably.
Dennis, you've seen the Coke machine in our lobby.
I have. It's fantastic.
Like that's been there since 80s or whatever. I don't know the exact date. So the business was, very, very dated, not just because it was a legacy business of at that time, over 35 years old, but because there just hadn't been any modernization done, period. The whole business was run off paper. They had QuickBooks, but, it wasn't being used to any extent besides, well, I'll put it to you this way. At that time, the company invoiced once a month. So for like, if you had a service call on December 1st, you didn't even stand a chance of getting an invoice until the mom, who was 80, and later that month and did her invoicing. And then she would place that invoice, printed of course, in an envelope and put a stamp on it and mail it to you. And then you had 30 days to pay it. So, if you did something early in the month,
call everybody.
You effectively had 60-day terms if you did something early in the month.
And now you have 30 seconds to pay.
Yeah, well, we're usually not leaving.
No, yeah,
until
we're just gonna hang out until you pay us.
Yep, we'll swipe the card for you. Enter it. So, there's two other fun facts about just kind of how dated the business was. Didn't offer financing, of course, because financing almost always requires some technology, and there were some kind of outdated views on it. Did not accept credit cards. 2014. That's what we're talking about here.
Oh.
You couldn't pay with one. The company did not have the capability to process a credit card payment in 2014.
They could have drug out the swiper like from
Home
Alone, right? Or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. A little blueprint.
The old carbon
swiper.
copy.
Yeah,
old
carbon
school.
copy.
13 employees, I think. It was somewhere right in that area. And so you had your two install crews doing primarily new construction and some change outs, but a lot of the year they were tied up on new construction. And we had couple plumbing crews that again were doing new construction, and I can't even remember, but I believe there was one service plumber, and that's where we were. That's what we were starting with. So Jason and I walk in one day in September of 2014, and we've already purchased the business, but no one there knows it because we're doing it, with the owner. I don't know to what extent he'd let people know he's planning to retire. I assume it was kind of apparent, but it wasn't announced. If that makes sense.
Right.
And we just walk in and tell them we're the new guys. We now own the business. By the way, Jason's going back to South Florida. I'm in the process of moving here, but I'll be, the new general manager and co-owner of the business. And what would your first question be in that scenario if you worked at an HVAC and plumbing business?
Yeah.
It would be, what do you know about HVAC and plumbing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, they asked that. and I had the pleasure of telling them jack shit. That's not.
Carry on. Yeah, go sell something.
But it did. I had a lot to learn, and still have a lot to learn, of course. But it did allow me to focus on the parts of the business that, some of which I've mentioned here, that were really outdated and needed modernized and improved. That if I had been a tech, bought an HVAC or plumbing business, I probably would have jumped right into teching, right? And
so it's actually, you came in
because you came in with people that knew what they were doing, but just had to fix, the business systems and the processes in the business to make them more efficient at what they were doing.
Yeah, it was actually the best way to get it going. Honestly, if you think about it, I mean,
the guys we had were good and knowledgeable. There's only one left, by the way, because as you start modernizing a business, particularly one that's relatively or kind of shockingly antiquated.
I'll be honest, it's a shock that they were that antiquated. When you just told me all that, I never would have thought that from what.
They did great work. I mean, they were known for great work, but the systems and the modernization process, technology especially, was just absent, totally lacking. So,
listen to what you're saying. Like, the name, you kept it. So I know that lets me know that we got to keep something around.
Yep.
People know, you didn't have to rebrand the absolute whole entire thing.
Ward was known well before us for good work, good quality work. And so, and not just a few years of it either, because even then, the business was started in 1977, and everything I'm talking about now is happening in late 2014. So 37 years. You don't just hang around for 37 years. You're doing a lot of things very well, and they were
right.
But it was new construction focused to a large extent, which we don't even do. We don't even offer new construction anymore, and haven't since 2019.
I never realized they were that heavy new construction either.
Yeah, well, when you only have a couple install crews, it's not like you're just out, every house in the area you're getting. But the builders that wanted to, build on quality, budget, Ward was the choice for them, I think, in many situations. Because Keith was, and I'm sure still is, very knowledgeable, took it seriously when it came to doing work right, and that's what they were known for. So that was an excellent thing to acquire and continue upon, of course, that quality of work. But we had a lot of modernization to do, and we've done, we've changed a lot of things about the business, and that's, I think, where some of the attrition came from as far as employees. Yeah, if you told somebody that you bought a business that had 14 employees, and here it is 10 years later, and you've only got one left, that would sound bad in the beginning, right? I would be like, oh, what did you do? Did you come in and run people off? But one, you had quite a few of them that were, nearing retirement age.
Yeah, they aged out.
They aged out, but then also some that weren't going to take the trip. You go from working on paper and not using any technology to, now, for example, we have core values that we use as kind of like our guiding principles as a business. One of them is technology, and that was intentional, because I saw that we had to not just beef up the technology a little bit, but starting below ground zero here.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like, you bring in technology. Bringing in technology only works if everybody's willing to take it on. Right?
Yeah.
I have interviewed technicians that were clearly skilled at the trades. And but would tell you, in an interview, and I'm sure you guys have probably encountered this a little bit. I'm not one of those iPad guys. I'm not gonna be doing that. And our response to that is, I'm sure you'll do well somewhere else. But
I was waiting for you to be like, well, that's great, because we use a Samsung tablet. Here you go.
No. We use iPads, and I tell them nicely we don't have another way.
Good try.
No,
Ryan.
but if
no
you think
Android
about that,
over here.
that's the great answer if you ever need
That
it.
would be a hilarious answer. That's cool because we use iPad minis.
Yeah.
There you go.
I assume you don't know what that is, but there's such a thing.
We use an advanced version of the Barnes & Noble Nook. Here you go.
Yeah.
So
that's part of our interviewing process now, right? Is this? I'm not saying you have to know it now, but you've got to be willing to learn it because we don't have another way. I'm not whipping back out the tri-copy paper because you're even a great tech. It's just this is part of what we do, and you're going to do it or it's not like you're going to do it it is. You're going to do it or hit the road. I mean, ultimately that's what it is.
Well, and as we start to talk about as you built the future of Ward, I've got to slam in some funny history of HVAC in Western North Carolina. So Keith started his business in 1977, as did my father in Bryson City and George Hare, who started Geno's. They all were 1977. Keith was the Train dealer, my dad was the York dealer, and George was a Carrier dealer when they started. And then my dad became a Rude dealer in 1990 when York changed hands and wasn't a fan of the new salespeople that kind of took over it all. But the funny thing is, so Cheryl, Keith's wife, and my mother were the two kindergarten teachers at West Elementary, but they're both married to two of the main heating contractors in the region. So my mom taught Keith's kids, and Cheryl taught me. And for the longest time as a kid, Keith's son, Rick, who was a couple years older than me, I got his hand-me-downs for years. And Heather and I went to daycare together and then eventually ended up at Western together. So
get out of here.
Yeah. So it's funny, like knowing all those people, for my whole life. And we used to do, Dad would do stuff with George from time to time because Dad had a H1 and George and those guys didn't. Which I think Keith always had a H1 on hand.
He did.
I couldn't remember if he had it or one of his other guys did. But we used to do a lot of like boiler tie-ins and stuff to help George out. And all three of them were always good, solid competitors forever in the right kind of way. So it's kind of funny when I found out Dennis was working with you and then everything else, and I started hearing the story. I was like, I can't wait to just dig into the funny backstory of this whole situation.
That's amazing. Yeah, and now you're drinking beer out of a Ward koozie.
I know, right?
Right, there you go.
I won't tell Dad.
I told Ryan, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna ride up today and we're gonna see Ward Plumbing, Heating and Cooling up there. He's like, you're kidding, right? I'm like, no.
I was like, seriously, that's awesome.
We're big Bosch guys. We're gonna pop in, hang out. He's like, oh gosh.
And I'll be honest, I never would have realized that they were, in some ways at that time, had not moved through as much technology as they had. Because where I was the entrepreneurial business major, I was looking at all the things that Dad was screwing up. I hate to say it, Dad, but it was true. So we started modernizing the business as much as I could with him, especially my last year of school. We got the website put together, social media, all that other stuff. But he didn't know how to deal with a lot of that. So it made that transition was tough. So I can understand why they hadn't had it. It just shocks me that they really didn't.
Jason and I were just having this conversation last night. It's coming for all of us.
Yeah.
We can make fun of, we can have fun with the generation before us and how they,
we're going to be
that generation in 20 years. We're going to be like, no, I'm good with my iPad. Thanks.
Yeah. And people go, you're still sitting there thumbing that thing. You don't have to do that anymore. Like, you don't have to. Are you texting? No one does that anymore. You just AI think it, right? You just have to think it. I already know it. But we were just talking about this exact conversation last night, like what'll be our thing. And Jason immediately said that it's going to be probably something related to AI. Some things that AI will do like cars. That was the example Jason used. Like, we're going to be telling our kids, or maybe our grandkids, you know, like, I want to drive the car. And they're like, what are you, fucking crazy? We don't drive these things. You can kill
Who drives
somebody.
the car? Like, yeah, you're gonna have a wreck doing that. You can't do that.
You can't even drive this. That's not even how it works.
No,
what do you mean
nobody
that's not how
drives
it works? You said it. You had a car. I know what a car is. It's metal. It hurts. You wreck it. That's what I'm trying.
Yeah, I just get in and it just takes me where I want to go, and then it's a monthly
I'm
fee.
driving. Yeah, exactly. Whatever. Who knows what
that's
it'll look like? But
yeah, and I order food, and it's in there when I get in, and
the monthly thing. No, Dad, I've paid the subscription. You don't have to drive the car. Like it's gonna be set.
Dad, I paid this.
I'm waiting out here at the mailbox. Nothing's pulling up. Did you pay the subscription? Oh, you know what? I got a new debit card on there. That's what happened.
Yeah, no, those won't exist either. And it's hilarious that you said mailbox, because I'm sure those will be gone at some point. And
they're done.
We're trying to make this relatable with our own phrases, and even them are funny, right? Like, I'm waiting by the mailbox, and you say that probably in 20 years, and somebody will be like, "What is mailbox? Like, what are you talking about? Box?"
You know what? I wish the mail is pretty bad now.
I despise it. It's
not good. It's not good. I mean, so I remember, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, I'm like, they want me to auto draft out of my account for their bill. Like, I ain't doing that. Yep. Now I don't even know if I have a bill that I pay. Like, physically. It just comes out.
No, I know for sure that I don't know for sure, because if I did, I might do something about it. But I feel very confident that we're paying for at least a half dozen TV channels that I've never even watched, or I watched one time.
I think everyone is in that. Yeah, everyone is in that boat now.
Boy, hadn't that game changed? Yeah, we're on.
I think we could probably start a TV channel, a very successful one, because I think I've figured out their strategy. It's, you got to land that one show that everybody's gonna watch. You know, like I feel like Yellowstone, when it first came out, was on, like, you know, Hulu's on Flix or some channel I'd never even heard of, and of course we got it right because
it's $5.99 a month though.
You got to watch it. But then I don't think we've watched anything on that since. Because now I can't remember the name of the channel, but I'm sure Paramount I'm still paying the $5.99 a month. Paramount Plus, right?
Paramount. Yeah, now you're still paying it, and you don't watch nothing on Paramount Plus.
No,
you're just paying it for, you know, because it's just
we just got to find that one show that everybody wants to watch.
Somehow Paramount pulled off. I don't know what they paid for this. Somehow they pulled off getting the Champions League. So I'm a soccer guy, so now I'm stuck keeping it.
Well, at least you got a reason.
I know, but it's just
the rest of us are keeping it. We just don't know it.
Now, what's that? Isn't there like some app that I keep seeing advertised that'll like tell you what every single subscription you have, and it'll just auto cancel it for you if you tell them to cancel it?
There is. Guess what?
Does it even work?
I probably have it. I
probably have it and forgot to use it.
Don't say it. They're not paying us either.
A month.
No.
What's that?
That's who needs to sponsor the podcast right there. Actually, the podcast I listen to, they're on there. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, they go through all your subscriptions that somehow it can tell if you've clicked on them or not. If you haven't in so long, it just cancels it, which, yeah, we could all probably use that.
Sounds like a great idea.
All right, let's get into, because this is what I noticed when I made a call to Ward the first time, was the culture of the business. Like, and you can probably take us through what it was when you started as opposed to what it is now. But this is a big conversation in the heating and air industry. Me and Rhydon being a podcast, we hear this a lot. I see it a lot on Instagram. Keeping guys happy, keeping them around. What's your take on the culture of the business?
Well, when we started in 2014, everyone was paid hourly, and everybody was billed hourly unless it was a new construction job or HVAC contract jobs. Retrofits or swap outs replacements were done on the contract, but everything else was still billed hourly, and all the employees were paid hourly. And so I remember, really, everybody knows it got hard to find techs there for a while. And I remember just thinking, I'm going to have to go travel to places and just walk into bars, restaurants, whatever, and just start asking people, "Are you a plumber?" It was
you a plumber?
Difficult.
Would you like to be?
And there were only a handful of known plumbers in this area.
True.
And everybody knew their names, and you weren't going to hire them because they basically had their own business. And so it was very, very challenging and to build a business. Right? You can't build a business without you can't build an HVAC and plumbing business without technicians. And we weren't growing. From 2014 till 17, we didn't grow very much, and the main issue was not being able to. The word's even interesting. Find techs, right?
Yeah. Or just find people that were willing to learn to be techs.
And that was also a very big challenge, and still is, but it's gotten a lot better for us because of the culture that we have created. So I started learning some and talking to other contractors and some of the consulting groups, if you will, and trade experts, if that's the word you want to use, and learned about performance pay and flat rate pricing, which are two things that we live by now, but we didn't then.
Yep. I was going to say, what year? I don't want to derail you. Flat rate. When was that? That was not long after 14, right?
Yeah, that really started happening in between really 14
16?
SEER changeover was when I started seeing flat rate like crazy.
Okay. That's
okay. Yeah. That's about when I came in, 2014. I think we were at 12 or 13 SEER then, and then, jumped up to 14 shortly thereafter. I didn't realize those two things coincided because I was ignorant and still learning. But so we started with our install crews. Okay, that makes sense. So I fell into it more than making it happen, more than likely. But we started out by, I remember, laboring over Excel spreadsheets for months, looking at how we were estimating HVAC install jobs. At this time, I was focusing mostly on replacements and figuring out my math. So this is what I was doing. I was going to figure out how I could go to these basically 2 install crews, 4 people. This is where I was going to start, right, and tell them, well, we're going to pay you for the job, not for how long it takes you to do it. But I had to figure out a way where I could at least illustrate
3 of them left, right?
That they could make more money doing this, right?
Right.
Yep.
Also convey that it's going to start as an unknown because you could make less if you take this. So at that time, our standard operating procedure on a replacement was it was going to be a 2-day ordeal. That was good. Because what the crews would do, first of all, what they would do was Keith taught me this behavior. You start the day by looking out the window or walking down there, finding out why in the hell they're still here at 9:00. That's the most important thing you're going to do as the manager, is get to the bottom of that. Why is it 9:00 and we're still here? So that's where we start. And the norm was you're going to go drive out to this change out that, sure, it might be here in Sylva, but it also might be in Lake Toxaway.
Yeah,
which is
solid
hour away. Hour away. You're going to drive there. You're going to look at everything, particularly the duct transitions and things that you might have to. And you're going to come back to Sylva. And you're going to go down behind the building to the metal shop, which if the job's in Toxaway, it's lunch.
Yep.
Now.
Right.
So now you're going to lunch. After lunch,
Now you're going to Boston Brewery over there. Yep.
You're going to build those transitions that
Yep.
you spec'd out on your own.
Yep.
If the job is in Lake Toxaway, for example, you're not even going back today.
Nope. You're going back tomorrow.
So we're at day 2. Customer may be out of heat or air, and it was day 2, and we've not actually laid hands on anything at the job. We've just made some metal in our metal shop, and now tomorrow we're going back. So now you got to do the job that the world calls a 1-day job. One day in, you ain't even started it, essentially.
Right.
And that was the norm. And it's not because people were particularly, it's not like they were quote unquote taking advantage of the business. That was just the norm. That was the expectation,
right.
And that's how we did it. So we changed the way that they got paid around 2017, and we started with install crews to paying them by the job, and it went very, very well. Our installers immediately started making more money, and we started getting more jobs done. So it's one of those rare win-wins in a business.
Yep.
When you're paying people hourly, which I no longer believe in at all, at least in our trades, you get what you pay for. It's one of the oldest truisms that there is. And what are you paying for?
Right.
Hours.
Yep.
What do you expect to get? The only way you can make more money is work more hours. What are you going to get? More hours.
Yeah. Right.
It's very straightforward, kind of simple concept, unless you've never taken the time to think about it. So that's where we started, was and a big culture change, because it went from, I'll put it to you this way, and Dennis, I don't know, you may have even had a glimpse of this a few times being at our shop, but I could show you sometime if you're there. That coin has been completely flipped from anybody looking out the window to see why we're not out on the job to, if anything, our crews are up our asses, us being, support staff. They want to know where the stuff is. They're not frantic, but they don't want their time.
They get done and go home, they're not racing to see how long they can stay out there on the job.
Yep.
Well, I will tell you, when I did training at Ward, from 8 to 12, at 11:50, Aaron was looking at me like, "Wrap it up, big guy."
Yep, these guys are ready to go make some money.
And I said, "All right, thanks for having me out. We're good." And they're looking at me and they're like, and I'm like, "Don't all run off at one time, And I'm like, "No,
Scatter.
I'm getting the wrap it up from the guy in the back over here." Like,
well, it's a good balance, though, because that's right. Another thing that we've changed from a culture standpoint is our respect for, admiration of, and need for training. I started hearing in interviews with people way more than I anticipated. I think even in my own head, I thought of training as kind of like something people are somewhat forced to do. And
right.
Having sat through a lot of training in my own career, different stuff, but sometimes that's what it feels like, right? Well, we got this training today and they're making us doing it, and I'll be sitting in a room and there will be training. And I started hearing from technicians, particularly younger ones that were, somewhat newer in the trade. That was very high on their list of priorities, was access to training. And so we have two online.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah, you should.
I'm a trainer, but not just I'm a trainer, but the guy that I worked for said we ain't got time for that. And I picked up multiple bad habits in this industry because I wasn't sitting in enough training. I was winging it, learning from what he learned, and he didn't do training. He learned from a guy that didn't do training, learn the right way. Now, take YouTube, take all that out, right? Like, that just wasn't really a big thing.
Nope.
As it is now, the guys we have now putting out training videos, technical knowledge. So you learn from a guy, learn from a guy, learn from a guy. They all did it wrong. I hate to, I don't want to piss anybody off, but that's what it was. They were not doing it right. And these young guys now are online. They're like, man, I want a guy to come to our shop. Do y'all do that? Like, I love to hear that.
That was one of the things that I appreciated the most about my dad, and he's still the same way now. Like, if there was a training class, buddy, we went to it. I mean, we'd drive to Asheville, we'd drive to Hickory. It didn't matter. Dad was always, you got to learn something new every day, period. I mean, by the time I was 18, I had like a wall of just random certifications from either like IQ drive training. I mean, half the time it would be stuff we didn't sell, but he's like, you're going to work on it. We're going to go training. Okay.
That's awesome.
I'll never forget the first training I had in Valdez for Bosch, and Rhydon's dad come in. This dude's in his 80s.
Yeah, he'll be 83 in April.
He sits in the front row with his pad and his pen, and I'm like, this guy's ready to go. Like, and he grilled my ass the whole time. Like, and you know what? He took like 3 pages of notes. He's in his 80s, but
I love it.
They don't, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, I was pumped to see that, but yeah, I'm glad
somebody didn't give him the memo that give him the memo that you're supposed to be pissed off after 20 years, right?
Right.
Well, and I mean, for him, HVAC was the second career for him, which is even crazier. He spent 10 years in a shipyard, 2 years on an oil rig, and another 10 as a maintenance supervisor for a massive chemical plant. And then his best friend, who was his pastor, took over a church in Cherokee, and in 76, Dad and his first wife vacationed up there, and he just fell in love with the place. And he said, if anything can help me figure out how to fix this first one, maybe it's coming here. And he went back, sold his house in 2 weeks, put in his notice, and he moved to Bryson City with nothing. No job, no nothing. And he started just working on refrigeration systems, whatever he could get, whatever he could do. And then about a year later, he got a letter from the state inviting him to come take his licensing exam, because someone had turned him in saying that he was putting in equipment without a license. So the state inspector came out, inspected everything, and he wasn't. And then a couple weeks later, he got the letter from the board to come take his test.
An invitation.
Yeah. That's
you don't see that much anymore.
I've never heard that one before. Yeah.
And then we did work.
Story.
We did work for the state forever. Like, we put the equipment in Dale Dawson's parents' house in Asheville. And that was when before Dale was head of the board, he was over Western North Carolina. So we got to be really good friends with him, because anytime he found a problem, we were the guys that he called to come and fix it for him. We fixed
Joe is very
we fix stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Would you say your dad has an engineer's mind? That's what it sounds like.
Oh, I wish I had a pinky's worth of what he's got in his brain when it comes to how mechanical things work. It's nuts.
So when you said, how many jobs do I go to where it's not the equipment? If Cajun Joe calls me, I'm like,
it's probably the equipment.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
What did Bosch do this time?
Yeah, it's probably the equipment.
It's the equipment. Right. It is, because he ain't calling until he checks all the boxes. But that's that generation, right? But then that's why I'm excited to hearing you say, like, I think this next generation might surprise us. You know what I mean? I'm
hopeful.
Everyone says they don't want to work. A lot of people say that, and I'm just not seeing that the way.
Right.
I think it gets said.
I think they want to work differently.
I think they want to get paid.
Yeah, that too.
Come on.
And that's why we go to work, right? That's one of the main reasons we go to work. You want it to be rewarding in other ways, but ultimately it's also got to pay the bills. And I think here in Western North Carolina, and probably a lot of other rural areas where there's not as much competition, and there's, you can kind of be set in your ways in some ways and get away with it and still have a pretty decent business. There's not many other contractors in this area that are treating their employees with respect to kind of the stuff that we're talking about. We definitely offer more training opportunities for our employees. We definitely offer much better compensation. And getting back to what I was saying earlier, they're in that 2017-18 range. That's when it started getting common for techs to, want to make $25 or $30 an hour. And I was having trouble making that work mathematically in my head, because I was having to use our current production rates.
Yep.
Compensation scale, right? And it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't justify it based on what you were getting out of everything.
My God, we're going to have to charge $12,000 for a change out, which is the norm now, but it wasn't then.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Right.
I'm looking at, if we're going to take 3 days to do these change outs, and I'm going to pay these guys $30 an hour, it's going to add up, right? And so we changed that, and now our technicians, I'm not saying that they're currently down there beating down the door, but we definitely have a lot more people applying, and not even just in this last year when it seems to have loosened up a little bit, even before that, because they've heard that's how we do it. So you start getting people that already think the way you want them to think. So I started out by having to try to change the way people thought, and now we have people join the team because they already think that way. They already have some entrepreneurial spirit, and they already want to take care of customers. A big turning point for us was around that same time. I think it might have been 2018, 17 or 18, when I went to the HR Expo in Atlanta, and I was in one of the breakout sessions, and this one was on culture, brand. How do you create a business, a trades business that stands out? That might even been called the name of I don't remember the name of the course, but there's 100 contractors in this big room in the World Congress Center in Atlanta, and that's the topic. And this guy said something that I share this with people, even our own employees, pretty often. He asked the room. He says, it's full of HVAC contractors. He says, I just want to ask a question and get you guys just quick feedback. Don't overthink this, but what is the reason why someone should do business with you instead of another contractor? And hands fly up, and he takes 5 or 6 answers, and they're all right in the realm of, can you guys guess what it was? I'm curious. They're all right in the realm of, we do great work.
We do the best work.
Right.
Yeah.
And he goes, he already knows what the answer is going to be, because he's done this bit before, and he flashes up he's got the big screen at the front of the room, and he pulls up the South. He says, how many of you have an airline that you really like to fly? If at all possible, you're going to fly this airline. And hands go up, and people name different ones, Delta, United, Southwest, whatever. And he says, well, mine's Southwest. And he says, he puts their logo up on the screen in the front of the room, and he's added underneath, the Southwest logo is the plane taking off, 45-degree angle, and it says Southwest Airlines, and he's added underneath Southwest Airlines his own text, like as if it were their tagline, and it says, Southwest Airlines, we land our planes. And he says to all 100 of us, when you say that someone should do business with you because you do good work, that's what you're saying. You land the plane. No one's going to call you if they don't think you can do HVAC.
Yep.
to do HVAC or plumbing. That's presumed. That's not a customer's expectation for why they would do business with you, or why they would tell their friends and neighbors to do business with you because you did a good job. Like, you got to give them something more. You got to give them an experience whereby they would say to their friend and neighbor, man, I wouldn't call anybody besides Ward. Those guys took care of me.
Yep.
And it started with some pretty simple stuff here in the mountains that I know you can relate to, right? Like, believe it or not, answering the telephone.
No joke. And I get it. If you're a small business owner and you're up in a holler and you have no service, that's one thing. But if it's
you got to figure it out.
Answer it, you got to
know. You're right, Brad. You got to figure it out. You got to figure it out.
Now, people are not calling to not have someone answer the phone.
Yep.
And then when you tell them you're going to come tomorrow, guess when you need to go?
Tomorrow.
Like you said.
Early.
Otherwise, what are they going to tell
Tomorrow.
their friends and neighbors?
Oh, yeah.
They didn't even answer. I mean, I still hear that all the time around here. I deal with it myself, right? I try to call people to get something done at my house, and shit, they're not. Here it is. I'm going to have to call them again. And then a week later, I'm going to call them again. I'm basically going to harass them into calling me back. I'm not trying to be, yeah. And I'm not trying to be critical of anybody. It's specific, obviously, but that's still a thing here. I think it's a thing everywhere.
Still is. I mean, when I would go in, this is when I was still working in college, I'd go in and I'd hit, 7:30 in the morning. All right, let's see who called last night. And you hit the old tape recorder.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And you're like, okay, all right, Mrs. Johnson, phone number. Furnace won't work. Mrs. Stevenson, heat pump not running. And then and then one at a time you call them back and you
triage.
You put them on the schedule.
Well, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. At least you were calling them back, and that was the technology available at the time.
Yep.
Of course, now we can automate quite a few more things and give people the I don't want to call it the illusion of responsiveness, but the feeling of responsiveness, even if it's not immediately fixing their problem, right? Yeah. They're engaged and they know you're on it.
Correct.
And we use technology a lot to do that, but that guy saying that in Atlanta really stuck with me. And
man, some of those conferences, you talk to some of those guys, some of that stuff, it hits, like it clicks.
Yep.
That one did.
Town. Yeah.
I walked out of there.
I've been to them.
Right.
I've been to them, and
which
got back.
I was going to say, when did you go?
I'm ready to go. I was going to say,
that was the same year that was our first AHR, Dennis. I think in Atlanta. What was that? 19? Is that what you said?
It might have been 18 or 19.
No, it was 18.
I think it was 18. So I came back from that kind of charged and realizing that in a weird way that I had to use some of what I already had in me with business experience and sales and customer service experience more than I was. I was really focused on learning this business being Ward.
Yep.
Maybe more so believing in some of what I already knew. When that guy told me that, I'm like, damn, he couldn't be more right. Like, I'm up here focusing on landing the plane, and
we already do that.
And therefore all the team is focusing on landing the plane, but everybody just knows we land the plane.
Right.
That's why they're calling. But we got to get them. We got to get them something else. So it was a pretty big turning point when we really started incorporating more technology and changing. So I guess I'm trying to put together some pieces of the puzzle there for you to ask. When you asked about culture, Dennis, is that everybody now, 52 employees, and everybody embraces these things that we're talking about, from responsiveness. For example, professional and professionalism are the two most common used words in our 1,700 plus Google reviews. That's not to brag. It's just, you asked about culture, and we've done some things that I feel are different, especially for this area, that have really worked well for us, that don't have everything to do with HVAC or plumbing. They have more to do with how the experience that your customers, and even more importantly, your teammates have. That's the culture.
Well, I think yes. I think, business to business, town to town, they can hire a guy that can braze a pipe, install a water heater, right? But it's so easy to get caught up in, we put that copper in the best.
Yeah, the example I always used it.
Like the homeowner's like, no shit. Like, it goes in one way. Is it hot? Is it not? Like, like plumbing, whatever. Is it cooling or is it not? How was the process? How was the experience? How was, there was a time where nobody threw down drop cloths, right? Nobody had booties on their shoes. Like all that's advancing. That has nothing to do with does it work or it doesn't, right? That's my parents were like the thermostat, the two numbers match, we're good. Like they came in, they put it in, whatever. Now it's like it starts at the door. It starts at the doorbell. I mean,
it starts at the phone call. Yeah,
it starts at the phone call. Way back. But to add to your point, you keep saying in your town, let's throw Atlanta in there where I was. I was in line with 3 vans in front of me to give a quote. So
you better do something different, right?
Well, no, right. All that still matters because that guy in front of you, he does that all day. He's going to go in there and it's going to feel like a broken record. Boom, boom, boom. But how do you separate yourself? So
there's 2 ways, I believe,
not to
oversimplify it, but you got 2 ways you can separate yourself. You can be cheap, and there's a certain number of people who will buy that, right?
Right.
And the formula for being cheap, it really isn't that difficult. So, and I tell this, I train on this sometimes too. Well, we're going to stop carrying the best brands. We're a Bosch dealer, as you know, Dennis, and we believe very much in the quality of Bosch products and the support that you guys give us. And we're a Trane dealer and have been since it was GE. You mentioned that, Rhydon, that you knew we were a Trane dealer, and Ward was actually a Trane dealer when it was GE. I don't know if they changed the sign on the building, but that's how far it goes back. Trane bought GE's residential. That's pretty much how Trane started in the residential market.
Yep.
And now GE's trying to come back. Look at that.
Yeah. So if you're going to be the cheapest, you stop carrying the best brands. You certainly don't compensate or reward or treat your employees the best because that's expensive, right? And
Right.
you don't. There's a whole host of things that you can do to be cheap, and there's a lot of contractors that focus on that, and there's a place for it, right? I mean, Goodman's not a small business, and I'm not even saying there's anything wrong with Goodman equipment inherently, but we all know it's cheap, right?
Yeah, we all know it's cheap.
That's what they've gone for, right?
Yep.
And
that's the direction they went, right?
Yeah. And then the other alternative you have is to be better. And that used to mean, to your point, Dennis, our parents' generation, that you did the best work. Now that means you do the best work and you provide your customers with an experience that they recognize as different than what they would get, not necessarily from your competitors per se, but just from other people that they call to work on their home. And that's how I feel that we've done. But that can't be done by, me, by Brad. In fact, I have, less customer contact at this point than virtually any of our other employees. Almost everybody, besides some people in the warehouse and purely logistical functions, virtually everybody. Our techs certainly have more customer contact than I do. Our comfort advisors have more customer contact than I do. Our client care people obviously do. Even our accounting people literally have more customer contact than I do. So everyone has to be part of that. And everyone has to embrace this idea that we're going to be not just put in a better capacitor. That's the example I always use, by the way, Dennis. I always tell especially our HVAC techs, as soon as customers start mentioning capacitors and reviews, I'll believe they give a shit. And not one has yet.
Right.
But word capacitor is not in one of 1,700 reviews. Because they don't know what a capacitor is, right? I mean, why would they?
Right.
Why would they bring that up? What is in there is professionalism. They were on time. They were respectful. It made me feel comfortable. I was glad they came to my home. These are the things that make the difference because no one knows what a capacitor is. That's
so. When I showed up, Ward had me up for some Bosch training, and it had been a while since they had training, and because I came from the contractor side where it was me and one guy and we tried to build it up, and in Atlanta where homeowners will chew you up and spit you out, right? When I walked into Ward, and I would say this about any contractor we have on the show. When I walked in the ward and set up to do training, I can feel the difference. I can spot it. The guys, like, they're I hate to say bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, right? They're stoked. They got training today. They're like already asking questions. What about this? I'm like, I'm gonna get to that. Just sit down, And I'm like, I like had to immediately become a teacher, and I hate to do that because I'm a contractor, at heart. But they're like, let's go. You can see it. You can feel it. I'll go to a contract. I was at one a couple weeks ago. I showed up at a shop. I pulled in there. The guys are dragging ass coming in. It starts at 8 and it's 8:45, and I got like 2 guys in there.
You're wondering where the hell everybody is.
But they're probably struggling with the culture. I know they are. I don't have to see any spreadsheets or nothing. Like, I can feel it. And I think that's the ticket nowadays, because just that little bit, right, that you see, or guys come in, they sit down, they're stoked about some training, they're going to learn something, then they're going to get on. That shows me that's already been built, and that goes out to the field. It goes to the homeowner. If you don't have that at your company, you got to have it. That's just where we're headed. It's the profitability. Like, you can take it all the way down, right? Like you said, how you charge, how you pay, it all comes from that. I think culture nowadays is number one. Like, it immediately transitions over to profit, because everybody wants to talk about money, right? But
that's what we're here to do. I mean, we're here to do HVAC and plumbing, but you got to be profitable, or you're going to go bankrupt and you don't get to do HVAC and plumbing anymore.
Well,
that's right.
And the problem is, people still to this day just struggle with us wanting to be profitable. And I see it on the other side. A lot of contractors don't understand that the distributor has to be profitable too. That's a whole nother way to go with it.
Oh yeah. It's I mentioned our core values a couple times. We have a chart or a graphic that we use to train on them. You can see it on our website, and the always start with attitude. And I always, when I'm doing when you join our team, sometime in the first couple months you're there, I will personally do training on our core values with you, because I view that one of my responsibilities, to make sure that people understand who we are and where we come from. Their managers are going to do it too, but I'm going to do it as the general manager and start with that. And the first one's attitude. And so much of what we're talking about is a product of that. And I tell the people in these training, this core value training, that if we could only have 6 core values, if we could only have one, that would be the one. Because your mindset and how you're deciding to approach everything from the customer, of course, but also your teammates and, our folks in the warehouse, all that is a byproduct of your mindset. And I always say, we're not asking you to be Mary friggin' Poppins all the time. Like, this is hard work.
Right.
You're going to be in crawl spaces.
No, it's a grind, for sure.
There's going to be days when I don't expect you to just be whistling Dixie the whole time, right? But,
right.
But generally, as a day-to-day routine, you got to come to this with the mindset that we're going to treat each other respectfully. We're going to have fun doing it, believe it or not. Even though it is sometimes very hard work, we're going to be cool. That's the word I use to each other and to our customers. And I think that's just for us over time. None of this, the place that we're at, didn't happen instantly. We're talking about 10 years worth of effort here, but we now have a team that's comprised of people who think that way. We're going to be cool to each other, to our customers. And it's like I kind of think of it as like a critical mass thing, because once you have that, there's so much self-regulation that occurs within your team. You just wouldn't
Well,
fit in if you sucked. And I say this in the same training. If you join this team and you suck, you're just not a very cool person to be around. You're just not going to fit in. Like,
right.
not going to have to write you up.
I've been hearing that a lot from companies. Like,
well, I think
we don't want you here, man. You're a bad apple.
Yeah, that and self-regulation as something to even discuss with people is most people aren't having that conversation either. Because they didn't get brought up to understand it because of their just different social situations, but it's a whole different thing to make guys really start thinking about. Think about how you feel when people do this. Think about how they're going to feel when you do this, because a lot of people won't step back and do that.
It's the simplest of expectations that are often not set. And that's why we talk about those core values and what I call the big A, the attitude one. Like, it's an expectation that you're going to do this. It's not tangent to what we do. It's part of what we do. It's expected that you're going to be professional and respectful of people's time, and you're going to use technology. We talked about that one earlier. These are not like hobbies. These are things that we do. If you're not going to do them, I don't necessarily talk about it that negatively, but it's very much understood from the get-go that if this is not who you are, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you're not going to be on this team. And it doesn't.
Well, I think a lot of business owners, contractors, getting going. Maybe they're small. The numbers are looked at more than attitude, right? You got to look at numbers. I know that's a part of it, but I feel like that will come if the right culture is put in there, right? That's kind of what you guys did. I went to a training one time. I won't name the company in Charlotte, large company. Showed up in there. Rhydon was there. Well, he was late, but
God,
I'm not going to name any companies, but I will.
Always got to throw it in. He's always got to throw it in.
That's great. I'm not going to name any companies, but I will name Rhydon.
I will name Rhydon. I know. Hey, he's co-host.
I also had to briefly wear a funny wig because I was the late guy to the meeting.
But
so, there you go.
I show up to a training of 70 guys. Okay, this is the install department.
Yep.
When I walked in, everybody was sitting there staring at me, waiting for me to start. And I went, oh, okay. You know what? They got their shit together. You know what I'm saying? Like, you think that company was profitable? Just me saying that? Yes. Yeah, they're profitable. Like, it's culture. I walk in, I'm like, they're like, whenever you're ready, we start in 3 minutes. We're all ready. All 70 of us are staring.
And then before
here comes Rhydon.
Well, but what's even better is before Dennis, it has to be there on time to start. But before he can start, the leader, like the install leader or manager, steps up and he makes a random one of his guys stand up and say their core values and say who they are, and then they can start training.
So when that way, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, and okay, so when 8:00 hit, he walked over to the door and locked it, and I thought, shit, where's Rhydon?
Rhydon's so screwed.
Rhydon's got the he's got the PowerPoint.
Yeah, and the farthest drive away as usual. Of course.
So when he said, if anybody's late, they have to wear this, what was it, like a chicken hat or something? I
thought it was like a green wig or something.
No, you have to donate $1 too, because they put it towards their charity. So anyway, they had this whole thing set up. Like, you're not going to be late to this place. It ain't happening. That's just not to say military, but there wasn't nobody late waiting for training. I'll tell you that. You know what I mean? It was, and if you don't think that place is not profitable, right? Like, all that ties in.
That place is now over 600 employees and over 40,000 maintenance agreements.
Dang. Jeez.
So,
And that's culture. I
obviously
mean, you're
that's a
exactly
large
right.
scale, but large scale. But you're right. I walked in, I went, oh, this ain't no, and I go to these small places where there's 10 guys, 8 guys. I've been there, and if they had a little bit of culture, a little bit of, they would be crushing it.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how big you are, right? It's the same thing. Everybody's soldering pipe. Everybody's brazing. Everybody's hooking up low voltage. It's all the same, but that culture starts to change things. And I think, like you said, the generation of tech, some guys will come on this show and say, man, we just can't find good people out there. And then here you are saying, we don't have any trouble finding people. Like we got a great crew. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't say we don't have any trouble. I mean, it's not like
I know, but I'm saying, right.
But it's
you might have more trouble finding what you want, right? Like you might interview quite a few people, but
yeah, that's part of it,
right guy.
To get the professionalism and honestly, we've started, I would say in the last 2 or 3 years, we've grown more in those 2 or 3 years than we did the time before. And we've hired more people because they demonstrated our values.
Right.
We've hired for that more times than we've hired because they already had X amount of experience.
Well, and
because my philosophy has become, I believe that our philosophy, not just mine, we can teach somebody HVAC or plumbing easier than we can teach them those things.
Yep.
So I'll take somebody. I'll take somebody that I feel like will already fit our culture. Tell me, dude, I know nothing about HVAC and plumbing, but I'm willing to learn it.
Right.
And I know it's going to be a 2-year burn. We've got guys at different stages of that right now, right? I mean, that's how we grow. But I went from desperately trying to find these guys that knew how to do this work, and in quite a few instances, knowingly hiring them with the knowledge that they're probably not going to fit the culture that I'm looking for, right? But I had to have techs.
Right.
And experiencing pretty significant attrition from that because ultimately they didn't fit what we're trying to do, even though they knew how to do the work.
Yeah, that's growing.
I was going to say, when did that, I won't say when did that light bulb hit, because you already expressed, like, I know I'm hiring this guy and he's not really fitting the bill, but I've got to have him right now. At what point, were you finally able to be like, okay, this is what we can do now because it's what we have to do? Or did you just one day say, we got to do this or it's not going to work at all?
A little bit of both. I mean, there's definitely a critical mass factor in that, where when you have enough people to make some money and therefore spend some money on things like training and skill development, when the desperation goes away, when we got in position where, because when you only have 13 employees, and 3 or 4 of them don't even work in the field, now you're down to 10 people that you're relying on to do the work, that range from service plumbers and construction plumbers and what we then called helpers and now call apprentices, and HVAC service technicians. We didn't have any HVAC maintenance technicians in the beginning because we didn't even have a membership program, didn't even do maintenance. You just had to call us and we'd send a service tech.
Yep.
But when you only have that many, this happened to us in the beginning, and one of them quits, just completely screwed.
Yep.
Because you got at minimum a 10% decrease in productivity right then. And if it happened to be one of your better techs, you got more than 10% decrease in productivity.
Absolutely.
So it's like a major hit when that happens. Well, when you can push through that and get to a point where you can say, I don't want to lose one of my best techs, but if they did go, it'd be okay.
Yep.
It would suck. It would be okay. Then you start working with a little bit more, flexibility, really. And it's not, you don't treat them any worse. In fact, you get to where you can ultimately treat people better because, one, They're not on call all the time. That's another thing that we changed. We haven't had an HVAC service technician on call in 4 years.
Nice.
Would I go around and tell that to every single customer?
Yeah, y'all
I don't
hired
know.
over there?
I don't know because I'm sure some customers would take that as like, well, you're not trying to take care of us. But my philosophy is, you got this. Let's just take an HVAC service tech, right? He's gonna handle, somewhere in the realm of 15 to 30 customers next week, and I'm gonna piss him off by having him on call 3 weekends in a row and he quits. Yeah, sure. I took care of a few more customers in that time frame, but where am I now? He's going to go down the road.
You got to weigh it out.
We don't do it.
You got to weigh it out.
We don't do it. And we have enough techs where we can work, some somewhat shifts. We have nobody going out to people's houses at 10 o'clock at night. I mean, that's just where we are, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. If you don't have any heat,
no, not there.
We feel for you. What we'll do is tomorrow. I'm not calling this guy who's at home with his family, and I'm not saying that it doesn't happen every now and then, but that's not our norm. And that's the two things I started hearing from techs is, especially the good ones, that knew they were more than just a good tech, that knew they had the professional skills and let's just call it the sales skills. They'd tell you, I want to know your on-call schedule, and I want to know what you do for training.
I feel like companies will take advantage of a guy like that. They say they won't, but they will.
Yeah.
If it's a big enough company and they're running calls like that, I'm with you. I don't think heating and air is life or death. I feel like
certainly customers act like it is sometimes, but at the end of the day,
that's right.
It's not.
But you still got to run a business, or these guys listening to this show, they got to run a business, right?
That's right.
And my old boss was, you got one more call, man. It's just a gas and go. It's just one more call. I'm like, it's 8 o'clock at night. How much money are we going to make on this call? Like, let's just be honest. I was done 3 hours ago. I'm burnt out. My mind, I can't think straight. I'm not going to be great in front of this homeowner. I'm not going to turn over a sale because then I got to go back to the.
They got to spend 2 more hours.
Paperwork, and then I got to quote this thing out. Yeah, because it ain't a 2-day job, right? It's a 1-day job. I got to measure all the duct. What's the power coming in? I am the salesman now, and no, I'm gonna sling some gas in, and I'm gonna leave. So how profitable was that call, right? And that's what you really got to start looking at.
Though. It's not. I don't think it's. I think there's still a pretty large effect of the pressure.
Right.
So the customer wants you. The customer wants you there yesterday, not even today. But you gotta figure out. I mean, it's not black and white, but you've got to decide whether the most valuable thing to you and your business is the technician or the customer.
That's a good point.
And I don't even debate that anymore. There's no question. It's the technician. I mean, I will tell our absolute best customer, which, and we're almost entirely residential, so no one represents a very large percentage of our business. But even so, if I was standing there in the room and both of them said one of us is going to quit if this guy isn't out here at 10 o'clock tonight, it's going to be me, the customer, or me, the tech.
Yeah.
For 0 seconds. Saying, Mr. Customer, I hope you find somebody else to be out there at 10 o'clock tonight.
Yeah.
End of story.
That's a great point. End of story. Well, yeah. It comes down to you got to run a business, man. That's what those guys are.
You can't do it without technicians. You can't do it without customers either. But, there's no question, nobody operating one of these contracted businesses is going to disagree with what I'm about to say. Is it easier to find a customer or a tech? Or
great point.
You use the word
pro tip right there. Pro tip.
You got or grow a tech, which is what we do more of now than hiring them. We grow them. Right. Which one's easier to do? I mean, obviously, You're going to put 2 years into a technician, tons of training and all, which comes in all different forms. Dennis, you're a technical trainer, but we provide professional training to our technicians as well. That has to do with, loosely sales or whatever you want to call it, customer
Soft
communication,
skills, I guess.
soft skills,
Yep.
professionalism. We provide resources for that. So I'm going to put 2 years of that into a guy and then call that an equal investment to getting one customer. No way. I mean, not even if it were 10 customers, not even if it were 100 customers. Really? If you told me,
right. No,
we're
I
going
feel
to
like
whack
we're approaching it like
100
that now.
Yep.
Well, you should be, because that's,
Right.
I mean, in my opinion, that's the reality of the situation. You got to have those techs, and you don't just got to have them. They got to not be burnt out.
They got to
I
feel
was looking at-
appreciated, feel like they're adding value, but also, you're giving value to them.
For my part, I'd sell this same stuff that I'm telling you guys to them. I don't mind them knowing that I place them well above a customer. All the customers. You can't do business without having some customers, right? But
Right.
they know that this is where they stand with us, and they know that we're not going to run them into the ground. I don't think we've had, this year's almost over. I don't think we have, out of whatever it is, so we got 11 plumbing crews, 5 install crews, 4 service techs, 2 maintenance techs, however that shakes out. I don't think hardly any of them have worked 2,000 hours this year, which is kind of considered the benchmark for a full years of work.
Right.
We have way more techs that have not worked 2,000 hours than we have techs that have. And the ones that do, it's because they choose to, essentially. Of course, we manage their dispatch.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When you build that culture, they will go in. They will get deep for you. They will get in there.
That's it.
On a day where they need to, right? They're like,
Yes.
You know what? God, you know what? We got to fix this today, guys. Like, we're not leaving unless we get it. They might work late, right?
And if they're paid for what they do, not how long it
right.
takes them to do it, that's already built into it, right? That's the other thing when I was talking about. Yeah, when I was talking about those, hopefully 2-day replacements earlier, that was it. So we talked about the front end where you're looking out the window trying to figure out why the hell they're still here. Then the same thing would happen on the back end, right? You'd have this job, again, I'll just use the Sapphire Valley example, where there was an hour left to get the job done. 4 o'clock. And you like being home, which everyone does, and you're paid by the hour. Hop in the truck, drive home, go back tomorrow morning, do that hour's worth of work in 3 hours. If you're not micromanaged, where someone's right on top of you, which is hard to do when you have multiple crews and a large geographic area, right? And you don't have cell service in half of it. Micromanagement gets difficult, if not impossible. So you've got to have that motivation built in where the guy says, hell no, we're not leaving. I'm going to get this job done today and make that $500 I'm getting paid for this installation or whatever it is, and move on to the next one tomorrow, without some manager coming along and telling me, we finished jobs today and you're supposed to get this done. And I'm looking at your sheet and all that. They just do it because it's better for them.
Yep.
Right.
Not
just
because
rush through it and leave.
And you've made it to where it's better for them, but it's also better for the company at the same time.
The win-win. You got the win-win scenario that's seems to be difficult for most people to create or embrace, at least. And that's just part of our culture. And like Dennis just said, they're not rushed. They're responsible to get that done because it's in their best interest.
No, unfortunately, I think what we see here is you came in outside of doing what they did, right? You didn't have that skill level, but you had the skill level that the company needed, right? So in our industry, a guy gets his license, starts a company, he's a great tech, installs, builds it up. That business, all that, he doesn't know how to apply that.
Yep.
Right. That's our industry. Like, still.
Well, and that's where
big part of it.
That's where a lot of, I hate to say it, but I mean, in some ways, my dad's guilty of it too, is, figuring out how to develop those other things in a true put it on paper, put it up on the wall type culture. If that makes sense.
Well, our ego in this business, and I'm sure a lot of businesses, like, ego's a big thing.
Yep.
And what Brad went to school for and learned how to do, that's a skilled trade.
Yeah.
Marketing,
take the ego
business,
out of it.
Right? Yeah, I can fix a heat pump, but you know what? Maybe I really don't know that side of the business. I think a lot of companies are hiring from the outside. Don't just promote your best service tech to service manager to marketing director. I mean, that's not his,
there are skill sets involved. Here's what
Right.
I've learned in 10 years is, and I'll ask you this question, Dennis, as a former technician, what percentage of technicians after 10 years, let's say you've been a tech for 10 years. Are you guys still there? My AirPods are making some beeping sounds.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. What percentage of technicians after 10 years want to get into sales or management? Pretty high.
High. Well, they want to get out of the field. They're like,
what is the reason?
I've paid my dues.
So the reason
the grind.
is,
they're tired of the grind. They think that they're there. They want to. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
I think it's largely because they think it will be easier.
Well, yeah.
And
100%.
Once you've done management or sales, which is one that really gets looked down upon, you realize it's not.
No.
It comes with a whole different set of stresses, right? That you can't really, of course, appreciate until you've experienced them. So
Right.
A lot of people's job looks easier than yours, no matter what your job is. I'm not talking about just about techs, because you don't know what they're doing.
Right.
I could say, like, yeah, I mean, these guys, they do this podcast. It's got to be easy. They just jump on the call and drink a beer and shoot the shit, right? I mean, that's what essentially what we're doing from 500 feet.
Yep.
But I happen to know that you put a lot into this. There's a lot of effort that goes, and that's virtually everything. But in our world, that's what happens is that techs, and they want to start their own business, because all you do then is just make money.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You just licensed to print money.
The phrase that gets used is sit behind a desk.
Then they find out they hate sitting behind a desk.
Oh, it sucks a lot of the time, right?
Yeah.
I'm envious of our guys a lot of days, and I tell them this in the right context. Like, it would be cool to go actually do a job and have that rewarding end of the day, like, and get that customer 5-star review and have somebody say how awesome I was. And I'm not woe is me in here, but that's not what I do.
Right.
I typically hear of shit when it's broken, not working well, right? Customers not happy. These are the things that are or were my everyday. So I think that hit on it there, Dennis, pretty well, is that the technicians want to get out of being a tech because they envision that it's going to be easier.
Yep. And I've been hearing a lot of podcasts say, careful hiring promoting your best tech to a sales manager or an install manager, or because managing people is a whole nother skill.
Yes, it is. And
guess what? That guy's been in a van for 10 years by himself. I mean, just throwing that out there, talking to himself, listening to podcasts all day. Do it. Yep. So we're back, and I was dogging out Rhydon's Android products, and then Brad's Apple AirPods died. Sorry, Rhydon.
Right. A little bit of just a little bit of tilt back to the Android.
Yeah, I mean, they only last like 4 hours. I guess that's not terrible. 3 hours, 2 hours.
That's it. I'm getting one of those drive-through headsets.
Yep.
Yes.
Zach is. We'll give Zach some commission on one of those.
Zach has inspired the next generation of our podcast guests with the drive-through headset.
Yeah, I mean, so if you're a small business owner and you haven't written down anything Brad has told you,
just go ahead and start.
You're not going to make it.
Over.
Yeah, start. Sell real estate.
He can help you with that too, apparently.
Right?
Well, that's
you're going to have a whole coaching network set up by the time we're done with this.
Well, I wouldn't be the only one, right?
That's it.
But I definitely hear guys dogging those coaching, programs as
some are ridiculous.
Criticism that I'm sure you've heard, but we are a Praxis S10 member, and some of that knowledge has definitely been, transformational for us. In fact, I mentioned to you that a turning point was what I heard at the conference in Atlanta. Another one was we became a Praxis S10 member, and I was watching some of their training videos, and Jimmy Hiller, who's one of the founding members and has a very successful business primarily in Tennessee, said that one of the most angstful moments in his career was when he decided he was no longer going to do new construction, and he remembers writing his last bid and saying, this is it for me. We're going to get out of this. And I was listening to that as somebody that still did new construction, but he went on to say it was one of the best things that he ever did because it was a culture changer. We weren't
right.
The context that he put it in that I thought that was the most eye-opening for me was he said, we're not going to view new construction as something we do in the winter to stay busy.
Yeah.
We're going to go get more customers. And therefore, we're going to need more technicians. We're not going to be trying to keep the technicians that we have busy. We're going to have more work.
Right.
And again, it was another one of those moments where I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense. That kind of aligns with what I already believe. Like, you can't grow a business when part of its strategy is to have this section of it that you don't even like, that you're going to have your technicians doing to quote unquote keep busy. Why don't you go get more of the work that you do like? And so we kind of threw that stake in the ground again back in 2019 and said, this winter we will not be doing these new construction jobs to keep our guys busy. We're going to go get more of the work that we like.
Well, I was going to say, so I hear that on this show a lot, me and Rhydon both.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been there. We had a new construction division, right, where I worked in Atlanta. There's going to be new homes built, and somebody's got to put the heating and air in, right? I understand that. But if enough of us, we just lost all the builders on the show. They just hung up, right? But if enough of us say, you know what, I understand there's 120 homes in here, but we have guys this is a skilled trade, and we're going to do a good job, and we're going to do this and do that, and we're going to pull a vac, and we have to charge this. And he says, no, I'm going to have to find the next guy. If enough of us get together, right? Like, it's the same work. It's the same work. Why is it a quarter of the cost, the pay? Like, that's got to go away. That's got to go away.
I think it is some now. I've talked to some guys in the last couple of years that are saying that new construction is just not as brutal as it used to be. At least
this is what I charge, man. I appreciate the 125 homes. I'll cut you a little bit of a deal, but I can't do this to quote unquote keep my guys busy in the winter. Like,
yep,
that's not that. We can't be that. We can't do that.
Nope.
I don't know who started that, and I've said it for 2 years on this podcast. Like, Who started that?
Builders. So
Right.
that, I mean, so that they
Well,
could,
because the
so that
builder's
they
like,
could
we'll keep your guys busy for you during the winter.
No, we got to
so
get
that
away
they
from
could
that.
leverage, so that they could leverage volume in an
That's it.
unhealthy way. Because I
That's it.
remember them saying it to me. Some of these guys are my friends. I'm not like hypercritical of builders, but I remember them saying, "Hey, man, if you can do it for this, I give you 100 houses."
Hey,
Which,
I'm not knocking their hustle, but at some point they're going to get on the phone and say, "Hey, man, I got some homes over here. You want to throw some HVAC in?" Like, yeah, this is what I charge per ton. It's like, whoa. And it's like, yeah, man, I'm taking money out of your pocket now, bud. Like,
yeah, you've taken it out of mine long enough.
I got guys over here that do good work, and I can go do a change out tomorrow, and you can keep those 125 lots. Like,
it's also,
I'll do 5 change outs and we're even.
Yeah. It's also different guys. And that's what, that's what was a realization for me is when you have technicians who can go out and provide, a homeowner in a replacement or retrofit environment with an experience that they would, again, tell their friends about and tell their neighbors about, that's a different guy than goes out on a construction site for a week. I mean, sometimes you have those rare birds that can do both, but that's a challenge. I'm going to hold you to this standard of professionalism and customer service and communication and these things that we've touched on the call for 8 months. And then for the other 4, I need you to roll around in the mud and forget about all that shit.
Yeah, just cut the boots in. Yeah, let's get that shit going.
Yeah. That's a tall ask for somebody to fit both of those molds. So in my mind, if you want the technicians that can operate at a level of professionalism that's a different level, that's at a different level, you got to find the work for them.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And that's our responsibility as a business to make sure they have enough of that work where they can shine and do what they can do, but not ask them to turn that off for some period while we all go out and do these jobs that we don't really want.
Yeah, I mean, you got the install. We had 2 divisions, right? We had we called him a trim out guy. He'd go out there and braze everything in, start it up, make sure everything's working well. And you don't think they're not going to talk to each other. The install guys are over here making this, and that guy is doing the same thing. I mean, he's doing the same thing. And he's just crumbing around down there, like you said, playing in the mud. I mean, new construction is a whole different animal. And
no, it's rough.
Those 2 things at the same company, it don't work.
Well, I mean, putting them in different divisions is better than acting like they're the same.
Right.
But
he's trying to fight to get over to the up there, right? Up there where those guys are. So it's like, when can I go up there? And then you're constantly trying to replace him. I just don't. I just feel like, and maybe you, like you said, if you talk to your builders, like I feel like we're turning the corner slightly, right?
It seems like it. I mean, I'm
the
not
new guy growing a company's like, man, I got to take this business, man. It might get me off the ground. Guess what? It ain't going to get you off the ground because there ain't no profit in it, like currently.
It feels like it's a trap almost. Like
it is a trap.
Once you start doing it, it's difficult to stop. And it was for us. I mean, it took just kind of, as I mentioned before, kind of putting a stake in the ground and saying no more. There was of course. I mean, we still have people calling us to this day asking us if we'll do new construction, and the answer is we don't do that. That's not what we do. And I think, and we even have some techs who, some installers who tell you, I still like doing new construction. There's a rewarding thing about building a house, but when it's the least profitable business you can do with the most amount of headaches and the least amount of praise, everybody feels that. Even your installers who like new construction, that's the boiling pot that it is in my mind. Looking back on it, lowest margin business we did for the most amount of headaches and the least amount of praise. So, It's less rewarding financially, but also less rewarding in general.
Right.
And I'm not saying every job or every builder. I'm just saying if you look at it as a whole,
it's a pain.
And I hate to say it, but these companies that I go to, where I walk in and I set up training, you know, and I get the guys that are stoked and they're sitting there and they're ready to go. They don't do new construction.
Right.
None of them where I go. None of them. The big ones, the 70 installers that I went to, they don't do new construction.
Nope.
I mean, somebody's got to do it. Right? I'm building a house next year. I mean, I'm probably obviously doing mine, but somebody's got to put the ductwork in and put the HVAC in these new homes that are going up all over the country. But
I think it's also worth noting that once you've committed yourself to delivering an exceptional experience, kind of like we've talked about, it's extremely difficult to do that in new construction, even with a pretty good builder, because there's so many variables that you as the mechanical contractor don't control.
I used to say it got to a point for us, we couldn't afford to do good work. That was like the quote. Like,
well, yeah, that's a great quote. And
we couldn't afford to do what we really wanted to do for the system, for the home, to be comfortable, because we're on the hook for it. And the builder's gone, and the homeowner's like, y'all put this shit in, it ain't comfortable.
And you're like, yeah, but I didn't design it.
Right.
I didn't even select the equipment.
Right. No, yeah, I was. So, yeah, I mean, it got to the point where we couldn't afford to produce a good product. Not to mention, obviously, the profit margins there were crazy. You know, if you had to go back for anything, you're done. You're done.
You budgeted 5 days, and then at no fault of yours, it wound up being 7.
Right.
And in our world, that means the installers would make less. You can see how that would work.
Right.
It wasn't my fault we're having to go back these extra 2 days. It's someone else's fault, or something else's fault, or someone else's fault. So it didn't match our philosophy from that perspective. New construction didn't. And I always said, like, in fact, the last construction job we did was actually in plumbing. And I remember sitting down with our most skilled and lead plumber at that time and saying, look, we're going to bid this. This is before we got the job. We're going to bid this as if it were service work. We're going to price it like it's not a new construction job, because that's what we'd always done, right? Was looked at new construction jobs with this totally different lens of like, hell, it's going to suck. Let's just try to make it suck less, basically.
Right. And that's not the way to look at it anymore. You can't.
And in this case, we said, we're not going to do that. We're going to bid this at basically our service rates. This is like a 3-month job. You know, it's not all going to be in one 3-month period, because you got rough in, and then this had a slab, and you got different phases. But we're going to price it as if it was service work, because at that time, and still at this time, we had virtually what I refer to as unlimited demand. If you wanted the work, it was out there. So I'm not going to be so stupid that I price this at much lower margins because I want the work when I don't. Right.
Right.
Well, we did that, and we won the job. Even pricing it like service work, basically. And this is plumbing. We got it, and we did the job, and we did a great job. Not just from the work standpoint, but like we were under budget as far as labor hours used. The plumber was generally happy. Great guy. He now has his plumbing license and lives down on the coast. But when we got done, we went and we looked at the numbers, and we said, what would we have been doing if we hadn't done this? Because we had all that data, right? We had other jobs that we were doing with other crews.
Right.
It still wasn't great. Like, it would have been better to have done, service work, what we already do. For both the company and the plumber. It would have been better. And he went into it, thankfully, this plumber named Pete went into it knowing that it was in some ways an experiment. Like, we're going to price this the way we think it should be priced. And then we're going to look at it in the end and see how we did. And we did better than we thought we would do, and it still wasn't nearly as good as what we would have been doing otherwise. And that was a real light bulb moment for us when we were like, if this went as well as it could have, it still wasn't anywhere near as good as what we would have been doing if we hadn't been doing this job.
But I think it also helped, he got to see that process as an open book process. And I think a lot of times that helps kind of get these guys convinced why we should do things a little bit different, is you're showing them why it makes better sense for them and the company. But They get to feel like it is better for me. So maybe we should do it this way.
Kind of the brains behind it. Because I didn't have the skills then or now really to properly take off that type of plumbing project. So he was, he was behind the curtain more than I was in some ways. And that was fine because we had mutual trust, and he knew that was what was needed of him, and he was part of the whole deal, more so than just I'm going to plumb it, and he got to see at the end. And I remember we were sitting there in my office, and I'm showing him the numbers, and he's like, "Yeah, we would have been better off doing service work, even though this went great. It went swimmingly. In fact, it still wasn't as good as other stuff we could have been doing." And
I think we're a little bit at a time.
Okay.
I don't know how many guys we've had on the show that are like, "Yeah, we don't do new construction anymore." I'm like, well, damn, somebody's got to do it at some point, right? Like,
yep.
We just got to gradually move that curve around a little bit, where a trade driven job makes what they should make, whether it's, like I said,
whether it's new construction or a change out, it took the same amount of knowledge in most cases to do the new installs as it did to diagnose someone else's install and fix it.
Well, and I hear more guys say now, well, we do new construction, but it's custom houses. Like, I hear that a lot now.
And that's getting closer, because what I hear when they say that is that you've got a homeowner and a contractor, hopefully a GC, that are as focused on quality as price, if not more.
Mechanicals. Yeah. They care about mechanicals.
And that really is what we're saying when it comes to the other side of the non-construction side of the business, which in our case doesn't exist. But that's really what we're saying is you got to have I refer to them as discerning customers.
Right.
The customer who knows they could get something done cheaper, but that's not what they're choosing because they want the right thing done. And that's everything from the work itself to the experience that they have. They're willing to pay for that.
Right.
There's just a lot of builders that don't, getting back to the new construction, that don't operate with that mindset. Right?
That's right. Yeah, because you want to,
as a commodity.
You want to take on the maintenance. They're going to add on as a maintenance agreement customer, and then you're going to doing service out there, right? That's the idea. But in the new construction world, it's like your taillight warranty and you're running. Like, come on, 1 year, right? Like, let's just get out of here. And
we started by saying that we'll only do new construction when we get to deal with the homeowner.
Right.
And that was better, mind you, because we at least had control over, equipment selection, or at least felt like had a chance to talk with it about. It's a weird thing to me, new construction, and this idea that I'm going to build this home, whatever level the home is, but especially on a higher level home. And as the homeowner, a custom home, as the homeowner, I'm going to have no say in the HVAC system selection, at least equipment selection. That's weird, right? Like knowing what we know about inverters and variable speed. The idea that a homeowner would be advised on that or not advised on it by a builder that doesn't know what we know is bizarre. Like, when you consider the benefits of an inverter system, by the way, like 80% of what we install are inverters. Dennis knows this. It's weird that I would buy a custom home without having discussed that.
Yep.
We know how that works, right? You're gonna put 4 hours of discussion into the the dishwasher.
When I can sell you a nice piece of equipment that's the same brand that makes your house.
And zero into the HVAC equipment selection, because my GC's got me covered on that. Well, you know
Right.
what percentage of the time that GC actually has you covered on that?
0.
Zero.
Well,
0.
I haven't met one. I haven't met one that could actually talk through the benefits of, for example, an inverter system over a traditional equipment. I haven't met one that could actually explain and iterate that.
No, that's
I have
not
met
his
some-
gig. It's just not his gig, right? Yeah.
I expect it to be, but the way it rolls out, it's supposed to be, because that's who's making the call. And what are they usually making it on? Cost,
Yeah.
not benefit.
Right. Cost plus.
If you're lucky, it's cost plus, because then
Right.
they might choose a better system just because it costs more, not because
Right.
it's
Right. That's a good point. All right. Well, I feel like we might have a
we
Brad/Ward 2.0 show coming.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
not
gonna
sure.
have to, because this has been a lot of good nuggets.
Yeah. So we covered a lot. I feel like, contractor wise, listening, like our last 3 shows in this year, between Zach, in-home selling, Brittany, and Brad, like that's what we got coming 2024. Are you going to AHR, Brad, this year?
It's funny. I was listening to the last one with Zach, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. I want to go.
Fair.
I want to go, but
And I actually like snow. Like, I'm a snow guy. I get excited about snow. So there's part of me that's like, man, if I go to Chicago in January, I'm likely to see some snow. But then there's another part of me that's like, it may or may not snow, but it's definitely going to be brutally cold.
windy.
Yeah.
Windy?
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been to Chicago at that time of year, but
It was a bit nippy in October.
I went
And the one we went a little bit.
I went once in April, actually for a trade show at McCormick Center when I was still in the computer chip business, and
always a trade show there.
yeah,
Probably.
it just so happened that we were there like the first spring weekend, and I would tell you, which is obviously not going to happen in January, but I would tell you, like, this was a very memorable experience because, I was at the time living in Atlanta, so, and by April you're already getting like summer days, but it was their first spring day, and it was like a Tuesday that we were there that this happened, and it felt like Chicago shut down from a business standpoint. There were people out on patios slamming beers at 2 p.m. in like shorts and tank tops. Mind you, it's like 48.
They're stoked.
But they're losing their shit. I mean, just people walking 9-10 dogs at a time, just smiles everywhere. And I still had, I was cold, but
Right.
they were just ecstatic.
It's springtime. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was wild.
No, spring is 60, 57, 55 in the morning, right? Gets up to about 70.
Yeah, a little dew on the grass.
Not 48. No.
No, I don't remember the exact temperature, but it wasn't warm to me. Like, I still had a jacket on, and they were in hog heaven, man.
Well, maybe we'll see you. So,
Yeah, I
we
haven't
gotta-
decided yet is the answer to that question. We're still
okay. You got some breakout sessions, or you could come see us record live.
Yeah, that's right. So if you are going, make sure to go and if you are going to go, make sure to go get registered at ahrexpo.com. I think we're starting to push up against the final days where you can actually get your pass mailed to you. I think it switches to will call sometime next week because they won't have time for it to get there, as we talked about our awesome mail system earlier.
Yeah.
But make sure to go to ahrexpo.com, get registered, come see us in Podcast Pavilion 2, Monday and Tuesday, 1 to 3. We've got some great guests. We're going to start announcing them probably the next show once the new year starts. I'm about to say, once the school year starts. Jeez.
No, don't say that. Jeez.
I know, right? Come check us out also at the Bosch Home Comfort booth, S8188, as well as the AC Products booth, which is S8695. They're actually really close together.
They are.
I looked on the map yesterday, and I was like, oh, that's nice. And the podcast pavilions are kind of right in between the main concourses of the two massive conference halls this thing is in. So I think we should have some good foot traffic too. But yeah, once you get registered, get the app on your phone, start planning your show, follow any booths that you're interested in. You can also see all the different breakout sessions, such as the ones like changed a lot of Brad's thoughts about his business. So get there, get some knowledge, check out some different opinions, check out some new products, and we hope to see you in the podcast pavilion.
Well, like Brad said, you go there, like I always say in training, if you get one thing right, one thing. I've been to sales conferences, and one guy said one sentence, and I left out of there like, you know what? I'm going to crush it when I get back. That's all it takes.
Yep.
So, Brad, as always, good to talk to you again, man.
Yeah, I
awesome.
appreciate it. That was fun.
Yeah, awesome to finally meet you. I've got to get my butt up there and take you to lunch.
Yeah, man.
We can catch up.
Love to chat with you some more. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll come up there and have a local brew.
That's right.
I'm not scared to have a local brew with Brad at lunchtime.
No,
right?
absolutely.
We didn't. Well, you know what? We're going to talk about music the next time you're on the show, because we're
That's it.
all music guys here. We have to get the story of the old dirty bathtub.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
Is it still together? You said
man.
it
Not
was,
really.
I know. You said it was aging. Was it aging out? We said that a lot.
Kind
on
of
this
like our
show.
technicians, right?
Part of, I mean, not so much aging out. We just had a couple. One of our dobro player went on tour with a real band. We were basically like, a couple weekends a month, type, mainly local
Right.
or in the region. And he's a killer musician. And he got recruited to go on tour with a singer songwriter named Caleb Caudle.
Okay.
So Carter.
Hey, when a band breaks up because guys are going on tour,
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah. Exactly. That's how I feel. That's how we
that's
all
a
felt
win.
about it.
Yeah, that's a win, right? Yeah.
Then another
sweet.
bandmate got sick, actually had cancer for a year. He's now in remission. But just between those two things, we kind of went on a hiatus and just haven't gotten back to it. And we all still are friends and still pick around a little bit. We just haven't got back into getting out and playing. I don't know if we will with the way things have gone, but I still play, around the house and play
Okay.
with other people here and there for different reasons, just not like banding it like I was.
Right.
And also I had a little girl right around not long before those.
Oh,
other
kids.
things.
Yeah, kids will.
Yeah.
Kids will do that. Kids will crush that. Golly, they're
It would-
great.
It would have been cool for her to say, "I remember my daddy rocking," but I don't. It would have been like the back pain rock way.
Right. Yep. Just got to get her in the HVAC world. That's what I'm trying to secretly do with Kylie.
Yeah.
You just don't realize it. I'm gonna sneak her in some HVAC world. Why not?
Yeah.
It ain't going nowhere. It
We need more women. It's
yeah.
it's still a very much male-dominated trades, and I think more diversity in many different ways, but certainly from a gender standpoint would be good for the trades.
Absolutely. Well, and it made it through a pandemic, right? I feel good.
Yeah, that's right.
As a dad, she gets into the trade. But so yeah, thanks for coming on, man. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon. We'll have to circle back.
Yeah, you guys just let me know when you want to come up and visit, and also if you want to talk some more, I'm happy to do that. I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
That'll work, man.
So thanks for your time, brother. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please make sure to follow us on social media. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok at hvac.rnd, as well as on TradeHound's Facebook and LinkedIn as the HVAC R&D podcast. Go check out hvacrnd.com, and if you need anything else, just reach out to us. Thanks for listening, Trade Crew. Have a good one, and Merry Christmas.
Yep. Merry Christmas. See you
And
guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.